Greetings, cozy knights. Lower your swords and rest by the fire. Tonight, we explore the conspiracy theories hidden within the frozen peaks and ancient ruins of Skyrim. Drop a comment below and tell me where you're listening from tonight and what games you want me to cover next, and subscribe if this helps you sleep. The Rorikstead Sacrifice Cult. Rorikstead appears as nothing more than a peaceful farming village nestled in Whiterun Hold, but beneath its rustic charm lies curious evidence that has sparked theories about dark Daedric worship. The settlement's fertility seems unusually abundant for land that locals claim was once difficult to farm. Every home contains soul gems, items typically associated with magical practice. A copy of Spirit of the Daedra sits in Joanne Manette's house, a book detailing how Daedric princes interact with mortal souls. This particular text appears in only a few locations across Skyrim. Joanna secretly teaches magic to young Sissel, and if you listen carefully, he tells her to keep quiet about their secret. The pattern of maternal deaths raises questions. Multiple mothers in Rorikstead died during childbirth, with only one adult woman, Reldith, remaining in the entire village. Based on these details together, some players theorize Joanne might be sacrificing fertile women to maintain the town's prosperity, possibly through a pact with a Daedric prince like Clavicus Vile, known for making bargains with mortals. Rorik's immortality. The founder of Rorikstead claims to have established the village after retiring from the Imperial Legion following the Great War. However, historical texts create a puzzling contradiction. Imperial records mention Rorik's steading in this exact location during the First Era, hundreds of years before the current Rorik could have lived. The holdings of Jarl Gjalund, a book you can find on a table in Dragon's Reach, references the settlement in ancient times. When you talk to villagers, they describe Rorikstead as a new settlement, yet these historical records suggest otherwise. This has led some to wonder whether multiple men coincidentally shared the same name and founded villages in identical locations across centuries, or whether something more unusual explains this discrepancy. If the Daedric theory about Rorikstead holds weight, this could suggest the current Rorik possesses supernatural longevity through whatever bargain enriched the soil. Lokir the horse thief's fearful reaction when told he's from Rorikstead at the game's opening takes on more significance when considered alongside these mysteries. The Night Mother's true identity. The Dark Brotherhood reveres the Night Mother as Sithis' bride and the spiritual leader of their murderous order. But her true origins remain deliberately obscured by centuries of myth and legend. According to Brotherhood tradition, she was once a living woman who murdered her 5 children to prove devotion to the Dread Father, transforming into something eternal through this ultimate sacrifice. Her corpse never decays despite centuries of existence, preserved in a state that defies natural decomposition. She communicates through supernatural means that go beyond typical necromantic animation, speaking directly to listeners who can hear her voice. Some scholars have theorized she might be connected to Mephala, the Daedric prince associated with lies, secrets, and murder, though this remains unproven. Her presence in Bravil during the Oblivion Crisis and subsequent relocation to Skyrim demonstrates some form of continued existence that transcends simple veneration of remains. Based on how she functions within the Brotherhood, we might infer she orchestrates assassination contracts to serve purposes beyond simple murder, potentially reshaping political landscapes in ways only visible across centuries. The Dragonborn as divine construct. Traditional understanding presents the Dragonborn as naturally born mortals blessed with dragon souls, but certain details have led some to question this assumption. The protagonist's arrival in Skyrim coincides precisely with Alduin's return, creating timing that seems almost too perfect to be coincidence. Unlike most characters, the player has no established family, backstory, or prior connections when the game begins. The Dragonborn's ability to absorb dragon souls is presented as a blessing, but it could represent their fundamental nature rather than an added power. Standing stones offer immediate proficiency in skills, which could suggest the Dragonborn isn't learning but accessing predetermined capabilities. These observations have spawned theories that the Dragonborn might be an artificial construct created by Akatosh or Talos specifically to counter Alduin's return. If we follow this line of thinking, the protagonist might not be truly alive in the conventional sense, but rather a divine weapon given temporary animation to fulfill prophecy. This interpretation would reframe the entire adventure as a programmed sequence rather than the journey of an ordinary person blessed with extraordinary power. Jurgen Windcaller's secret. Jurgen Windcaller founded the Greybeards and established their philosophy of pacifistic meditation after a pivotal debate at High Hrothgar. When you visit his tomb in Ustengrav during the main quest, something unusual happens. Upon examining his burial site, you receive a dragon soul, the same type of power absorption that occurs when you kill a dragon. This has sparked considerable speculation, because dragon souls should only exist within actual dragons or other dragonborn, never in the graves of ordinary humans, regardless of their mastery of the Thu'um. The tomb's decoration features Akaviri symbols, designs closely associated with dragon hunting and identifying dragonborn. Historical accounts describe how Jurgen defeated his opponents during the debate by rendering them unable to speak, which is typically interpreted as philosophical victory. However, if Jurgen was himself dragonborn, this event takes on different meaning. He might have silenced his rivals with overwhelming dragon shouts rather than persuasion. Following this interpretation, the Way of the Voice could have been established partly to prevent other Thu'um users from recognizing and challenging his unique power. The Greybeard's name, meaning, the Order of Greybeards dwells atop High Hrothgar, but their name carries deeper significance than simple description of age facial hair. In Nordic culture, dying gloriously in battle guarantees entrance to Sovngarde, where warriors feast and fight eternally. The Greybeards chose a different path, withdrawing from martial society to pursue meditative mastery of the voice. By allowing themselves to grow old enough for grey beards, they rejected the warrior's creed that dominates Nordic identity. Their name represents not just age, but philosophical apostasy, marking them as Nords who chose longevity over glorious death. This might explain why common Nords treat the Greybeards with suspicious reverence rather than wholehearted respect. The Masters of High Hrothgar achieve something most Nords never experience: old age. In doing so, they implicitly rejected Sovngarde and everything Nord culture values about honorable death. Their grey beards are badges of shame as much as wisdom, marking them as cowards in the eyes of traditional warriors. Ulfric's failed prophecy. Ulfric Stormcloak killed High King Torrig using the Thu'um and sparked civil war across Skyrim. His background reveals he studied with the Greybeards during his youth. Learning the Way of the Voice before the Great War pulled him into military service. Documents found in the Thalmor embassy describe him as an asset who was captured and interrogated, though they note he's currently uncooperative. His time as a prisoner clearly left deep psychological scars. Some players have theorized that Ulfric might have convinced himself he was Dragonborn, interpreting his mastery of shouts as evidence of a dragon soul. Following this theory, his killing of Torygg wasn't merely political assassination, but an attempt to prove his supposed divine right through demonstration of power. When dragons returned to Skyrim and Ulfric couldn't absorb their souls like the true Dragonborn can, this would have revealed his mistake. The civil war he started might stem less from genuine political ideology and more from a broken man's desperate attempt to justify beliefs that proved catastrophically false. His genuine hatred for the Thalmor coexists with actions that ultimately serve their interests by dividing Skyrim. The Dwemer's transcendence. The Dwemer civilization vanished instantly during their war with the Chimer, leaving behind only empty cities, functioning automatons, and one survivor named Yagrum Bargan, who was in an oblivion plane at the moment of disappearance. This represents one of Tamriel's greatest unsolved mysteries. Their final experiment with Kagranak's tools on the heart of Lorkhan might have succeeded in ways that appear as failure to those still bound by physical reality. Rather than dying or suffering catastrophe, this theory proposes the Dwemer deliberately shed physical form, ascending to a state of existence mortals cannot comprehend or perceive. If time bent inward and outward into shapes always new, as some texts describe, an entire race might have transformed into abstract concepts rather than remaining flesh and bone. Their automatons continue functioning because they were never truly alive in biological sense, just extensions of Dwemer, consciousness that persists in observable forms. From this perspective, the Dwemer didn't disappear, but simply moved sideways out of our dimensional understanding, existing all around us in ways we cannot detect. Sheogorath's champion identity. When the Dragonborn encounters Sheogorath during the Mind of Madness quest, the Daedric Prince makes oddly specific references to events from 200 years earlier. He mentions butterflies, blood, a fox, a severed head, and cheese in ways that perfectly match specific moments from the Shivering Isles expansion in Oblivion. This has led to one of Skyrim's most widely discussed theories. In the Shivering Isles, the player character eventually mantled Sheogorath, a process where someone becomes a deity by fulfilling their role so completely that reality can't distinguish between them. Based on these specific dialogue references that only someone who personally experienced those events would know, many players believe the Sheogorath encountered in Skyrim is actually the former champion of Cyrodiil, who became the Daedric Prince. The original Sheogorath would have no reason to know these particular details with such precision, but the hero of Kvatch, who lived through them, would. This interpretation suggests the champion of Cyrodiil no longer exists as a separate entity, having been completely transformed into Sheogorath through the mantling process. The Bug Jar Apocalypse. 5 mysterious jars containing single insects can be found scattered across Skyrim in remote, hard-to-reach locations. Each lid bears inscriptions that players have attempted to translate using Dwemer and Daedric alphabets. The jars themselves contain a butterfly, bee, moth, dragonfly, and torchbug. What makes them intriguing is their placement. When you map the 5-jar locations, they correspond to cities that form a geometric pattern. Morthal, Whiterun, Winterhold, Dawnstar, and Windhelm create what appears to be a pentagram shape on the map. Inside this larger pattern, 3 dragon burial mounds and the Dwemer ruin Mzincha form a smaller pentagon. At what could be interpreted as the transmutation circle's center stands a shrine to Talos. Some players have theorized the bug jars might map coordinates for some kind of super weapon, possibly Skyrim's final defense against threats like Thalmor invasion. The precision of their placement seems too deliberate to be coincidental, though the fact that no quest involves these jars suggests this may be cut content that was never fully implemented. Paarthurnax's long game. Paarthurnax claims to have renounced his violent nature and spent thousands of years meditating atop the throat of the world, but his philosophical musings might disguise ongoing manipulation. As Alduin's former lieutenant, Paarthurnax knows more about dragon nature than any living being. He taught humans the Thu'um specifically to overthrow dragon dominance, but perhaps not from altruism, by enabling the ancient tongues to defeat Alduin. Paarthurnax eliminated the one dragon who could command his obedience, effectively making himself the most powerful free dragon in existence. His counsel to the Dragonborn might serve similar purposes, ensuring Alduin's permanent destruction while positioning himself as the last surviving dragon of significant power. The Blades want Paarthurnax dead precisely because they recognize this danger, but the Greybeards defend him, possibly manipulated by centuries of his philosophical wisdom. Paarthurnax's meditation might not suppress his domination instinct but refine it into subtler forms. He doesn't need to rule through violence when he can rule through carefully crafted philosophy and patient manipulation. The Thalmor's Alduin plan. The Thalmor work toward unmaking creation itself, believing they can return to their previous divine state by destroying the mortal world. Lorcan tricked the Aedra into creating. Alduin, the World Eater's return, should align perfectly with their goals, yet they seem ignorant of or unconcerned with his resurrection. Some conspiracy theorists suggest the Thalmor secretly orchestrated Alduin's return, manipulating events across centuries to wake the dragon at precisely the right moment. The suppression of Talos worship wasn't just religious persecution, but magical weakening of mankind's divine protector. The Great War and subsequent White Gold Concordat distracted and divided human kingdoms, leaving them vulnerable when Alduin emerged. Perhaps Thalmor agents discovered prophecies about the World Eater and deliberately fulfilled conditions necessary for his return. They might have believed they could negotiate with or control Alduin, using his reality-ending hunger as a weapon against their enemies. Their miscalculation would be catastrophic if this theory holds true, but the Thalmor's arrogance might blind them to dangers even ancient dragons represent. Nafi's mysterious contract. The Dark Brotherhood quest line includes a contract to assassinate Nafi, a mentally unstable beggar living in the ruins of his family home outside Ivarstead. Unlike most Brotherhood targets who are wealthy, powerful, or have clearly motivated enemies, Nafi possesses no apparent reason for anyone to want him dead badly enough to perform the Black Sacrament, the dark ritual required to contact the Brotherhood. His sister Rhaeda disappeared a year before, and if you search the river near Ivarstead, you can find her drowned corpse. Wilhelm, the innkeeper, seems to know more about Rhaeda's fate than he openly admits. The complete lack of explanation for who wanted Nafi dead and why has spawned several theories. One possibility involves Wilhelm himself, perhaps having been involved in Rhaeda's death and then contracting the Brotherhood to eliminate Nafi when his grief-driven questions got too close to dangerous truths. Another interpretation frames it as a mercy killing, with someone who cared for Nafi wanting to end his suffering rather than watch him slowly lose his mind. Without any quest resolution or explanation, this remains one of Skyrim's most haunting unexplained mysteries. Rune's hidden origins. Rune, a member of the Thieves' Guild, remembers nothing before washing ashore as a child after a shipwreck. A farmer found him clutching a stone carved with mysterious runes, giving him both his name and only connection to his past. The Dragonborn can offer to help investigate Rune's origins, but no quest materializes and no answers ever surface. This strongly suggests cut content, but the deliberate inclusion of Rune's mysterious background implies significance beyond simple NPC backstory. Some theorize Rune might be related to the Dragonborn or possess similar latent abilities, with his amnesia suppressing dangerous memories. The runes on his stone might be Thu'um phrases or binding magic meant to seal away his true nature. Others suggest that he could be related to the Psijic Order or other secretive magical organizations, deliberately abandoned with false memories as protection. Without a quest to resolve his storyline, Rune remains one of Skyrim's most frustrating dangling threads, a mystery that had answers the developers never implemented. The Ebony Warrior's purpose. At level 80, the Dragonborn receives a challenge from the Ebony Warrior, a Redguard fighter who claims to have completed every possible achievement and now seeks honorable death in combat. He possesses multiple shouts despite not being Dragonborn, suggesting extraordinary Thu'um mastery through conventional training. His equipment consists of the finest ebony armor and weapons, and his combat prowess rivals any enemy in Skyrim. The mystery lies in his origins and true purpose. No background information exists about who he was before seeking his final battle. Some theorize he might be an embodiment of the player's own journey, a mirror showing what the Dragonborn could become after exhausting all challenges. Others suggest he's testing the Dragonborn's worthiness for some greater destiny, serving as a final trial before unknown cosmic responsibilities. His request to be killed specifically at a location of his choosing hints at religious or philosophical significance. Perhaps he seeks entrance to Sovngarde or another afterlife that requires death in glorious combat. The Ebony Warrior represents the endgame of warrior culture, where the only remaining challenge is finding someone strong enough to grant you death. Cicero's Night Mother obsession. Cicero, the jester assassin of the Dark Brotherhood, displays fanatical devotion to the Night Mother's corpse that goes beyond religious fervor into disturbing obsession. He transported her body from Bravil to Skyrim, murdering anyone who threatened his sacred cargo. His journals reveal conversations with the Night Mother where she supposedly responds, but whether she actually speaks or Cicero hallucinates remains ambiguous. The theory suggests Cicero might be partially correct in his madness. Perhaps the Night Mother does communicate with him, choosing the unstable jester as her prophet because his insanity makes him uniquely receptive to her will. Alternatively, Cicero's mind fractured so completely that he unconsciously puppets the Night Mother's corpse while believing she speaks independently. His jester persona might be a defense mechanism, hiding trauma beneath layers of performance and madness. The Night Mother's whispers to the Dragonborn through Cicero prove someone supernatural communicates through the corpse, but whether it's truly Sithis' bride or something else entirely wearing her dead flesh remains unsettlingly unclear. The Sleeping Tree's origin. A massive purple tree grows in volcanic tundra south of Whiterun, unlike any flora native to Skyrim. Nearby lies a giant's camp, where a single giant tends the tree and sleeps beneath its boughs. A chest contains a journal from Ulag, the giant's adoptive son, explaining that his father raised him from childhood. Ulag discovered his mother's skeleton and learned she was a captured woman the giant kept prisoner before death. The tree produces sap with powerful narcotic properties, and Isolde in Whiterun seeks quantities of this substance. The theory suggests the tree isn't natural but extraplanar, possibly connected to Oblivion or even alien realms. Its purple coloration and location near Red Mountain hint at Morrowind connections, perhaps a seed carried from Vardenfell. The giant's devotion to the tree suggests religious or magical significance beyond simple flora. Perhaps the tree is sentient, exerting influence that compelled the giant to nurture it and protect its growth. The mother, Oleg discovered, might have been sacrificed to the tree rather than simply dying in captivity, her death feeding its unnatural expansion. The farmer's revenge, the snow elf's transformation into the blind, savage farmer resulted from Dwemer betrayal, but some evidence suggests they retain more intelligence than surface dwellers assume. Farmer architecture in remote regions shows sophistication beyond mindless beasts, and their organized raids suggest coordinated planning. The theory posits that farmer leadership exists, possibly comprised of individuals who retain sanity through the centuries of degradation. These leaders might be orchestrating gradual expansion from underground domains, preparing eventual reconquest of surface lands their ancestors once ruled. The farmer's presence in Dwemer ruins isn't random scavenging, but deliberate occupation of strategically significant locations. Their alliance with Chorus insects demonstrates animal husbandry capabilities, and their poison crafting shows chemical knowledge. Perhaps the former remember everything, their betrayal, their kingdom, their stolen glory, and plot revenge with patience measured in generations. Their apparent savagery might be deliberately cultivated to make surface dwellers underestimate them. The snow elves aren't extinct. They're waiting, hidden in darkness, preparing for the day they emerge to reclaim what was stolen. The Stormcloak Thalmor connection. Documents recovered from the Thalmor embassy reveal Ulfric Stormcloak as an asset who was captured and broken during the Great War. The Thalmor note his uncooperative status, but consider him valuable for the civil war he perpetuates. Some conspiracy theorists take this further, suggesting Ulfric remains under active Thalmor manipulation through magical or psychological conditioning. His rebellion serves Thalmor interests perfectly, dividing and weakening the Empire while masquerading as nationalist resistance. Perhaps Ulfric's trauma-induced belief in his dragonborn status was planted deliberately, pushing him toward rebellion the Thalmor knew would tear Skyrim apart. The killing of Torrig might have been encouraged or even magically influenced by Thalmor agents working through Ulfric's subconscious. His genuine hatred for the Thalmor could coexist with unconscious compulsion to serve their goals, making him the perfect unwitting agent. Every Nord who dies in the Stormcloak Rebellion weakens humanity against the Thalmor's ultimate objective of unmaking creation itself. Ulfric's resistance accomplishes exactly what his supposed enemies need, while feeling heroically independent to his followers. Alduin's true defeat. The Dragonborn defeats Alduin in Sovngarde with help from the 3 ancient Nord heroes who originally sent him forward through time. However, unlike every other dragon in the game, Alduin's soul doesn't transfer to the player character after his defeat. This unusual detail has sparked considerable discussion. Partonax explains that Alduin is more than just another dragon. He is meant to end the world when the time comes, bringing one Kalpa to conclusion so another can begin. Based on this cosmological role, some interpret Alduin's defeat as temporary rather than permanent. The theory suggests you didn't truly destroy the World Eater, but rather forced him back to whatever timeless place he inhabits between world cycles. The prophecy specifically calls for Alduin's defeat, not his death, which could be significant word choice. If Alduin's role in the cosmos is necessary and ordained, then he cannot be permanently killed because reality requires his function. He will return eventually, perhaps immediately in cosmic terms, or perhaps millions of years hence, to fulfill his purpose of ending the current cycle and allowing new reality to begin. The Sleeping Giant Inn secret. Delphine operates the Sleeping Giant Inn in Riverwood. while secretly serving as one of the last blades, hiding in plain sight after the Thalmor hunted her order nearly to extinction. The inn itself might hold deeper significance than simple cover identity. The name Sleeping Giant could reference dragons, the ancient threats that sleep beneath mountains waiting for Alduin's call to wake them. Alternatively, it might reference a giant, quite literally, sleeping somewhere in the building's depths or nearby caves. The inn's location at the crossroads between Helgen and Whiterun positions it perfectly for intelligence gathering, but perhaps also for accessing underground blade installations. Delphine's basement already contains a secret passage to ancient blade equipment and correspondence. Some theorize deeper levels exist, tunnels connecting to other blade safe houses across Skyrim, or even ruins of their original headquarters. The Sleeping Giant might have served as a blade way station for centuries, its mundane appearance concealing vital infrastructure for an organization that supposedly ceased existing. Every patron and piece of gossip filters through Delphine's awareness, maintaining the Blade's intelligence network even in their darkest hour. The Headless Horseman's mission. A spectral rider on a ghostly horse appears randomly throughout Skyrim during nighttime hours, galloping toward Hamvir's Rest without acknowledging or attacking observers. Following him leads to a burial site filled with Draugr and a helmeted skull in a coffin. The Headless Horseman never explains his purpose or origin, simply completing his ride and vanishing. Theories suggest he might be a Nordic warrior cursed to ride eternally, perhaps for failing to protect Hamvir in life. Others propose he's warning of danger at Hamvir's Rest, trying to guide heroes to cleanse the location of undead corruption. The most unsettling theory suggests he's collecting souls, riding to claim fallen warriors for Sovngarde or darker afterlives. His appearance might predict nearby death, with the horseman serving as psychopomp for Nordic dead. The helmeted skull in his destination coffin could be his own head, separated in battle and buried apart from his body, dooming him to ride between them eternally. Perhaps completing some unknown objective at Hamvir's Rest would free him. But without dialogue or quests, the horseman remains mysterious as the fog he rides through. The Thalmor's Talos truth. The Thalmor ban. Talos worshipped throughout the Empire, claiming its religious suppression of a false deity. However, their own documents and actions suggest they know Talos is genuinely divine and fear his power. By preventing his worship, they weaken the god himself through mechanics of faith-based divinity. Talos achieved godhood through mantling Lorcan, becoming a divine force tied intrinsically to humanity's existence. The Thalmor's plan to unmake creation requires eliminating Talos first, because his ascension represents humanity's potential for divinity, a concept that contradicts Altma supremacy ideology. Every shrine destroyed, every Talos worshipper imprisoned or killed, weakens the god's connection to Mundus. The theory suggests Talos might already be dying, his power fading with each generation that forgets true worship. The Dragonborn's potential connection to Talos as fellow divine entities makes the protagonist particularly dangerous to Thalmor plans. Perhaps they pursue the Dragonborn not just as a person, but as a concept, trying to eliminate the possibility of human ascension that both Talos and the player character represent. The Forsworn's righteous cause. The Forsworn are universally treated as bandits and terrorists throughout Skyrim, but their perspective reveals a more complex story of indigenous resistance against colonial oppression. The Reach originally belonged to the Reachmen before Nordic conquest, and the Forsworn remember this history. Their use of Hagraven magic and Daedric worship stems from desperation, allying with any power that might help reclaim their homeland. The city of Markarth was briefly independent under Forsworn control before Imperial forces retook it, slaughtering resistance members and imprisoning survivors. The conspiracy surrounding Madanak in Sidna Mine reveals Silverblood family corruption and the true extent of oppression facing Reachmen. Perhaps the Forsworn aren't terrorists, but freedom fighters engaged in asymmetric warfare against impossible odds. Their attacks on travelers seem random, but might strategically target those supporting the occupation. The prophecy of Red Eagle, their legendary king, promises his return to liberate the Reach. Some Forsworn might genuinely believe they're preparing the way for this messianic resurrection, willing to commit any atrocity if it brings their king back to life. The Psijic Order's manipulation. The Psijic Order intervenes in Skyrim's affairs during the College of Winterhold questline, appearing mysteriously to the Dragonborn and later removing the Eye of Magnus from Mundus. Their actions seem benevolent, preventing catastrophic magical disaster, but their true motives remain opaque. The Psijics possess time manipulation abilities and knowledge of events yet to occur, meaning every action they take follows predetermined script. Their removal of the eye might not be protective but strategic, claiming an artifact of immense power for themselves. The theory suggests Psijics orchestrate events across Tamriel to serve their own incomprehensible agenda, manipulating history like pieces on a cosmic game board. Their withdrawal from mainland politics isn't neutrality but patient plotting, positioning themselves to survive whatever apocalyptic futures they foresee. Perhaps they know about the Thalmor's plans to unmake creation and actually support them, believing reality's destruction will achieve something beyond mortal understanding. The Psijic Order might be Tamriel's true secret masters, their seeming benevolence masking purposes that would horrify anyone who glimpsed their genuine goals. Aventus Aretino's real mother. Aventus Aretino, a young boy trapped in Honor Hall Orphanage, performs the Black Sacrament to summon the Dark Brotherhood and have Grelod the Kind murdered for her cruelty. His successful summoning at such a young age suggests unusual aptitude for dark magic. The theory proposes Aventus might be descended from Dark Brotherhood members, possibly the Night Mother herself. His natural affinity for the ritual could be hereditary, his bloodline carrying fragments of Sithis' blessing. When the Dragonborn kills Grelod, Aventus displays neither shock nor remorse but satisfaction, a reaction disturbingly mature for a traumatized child. Perhaps Aventus isn't as innocent as he appears. His time in the orphanage might have awakened dormant abilities tied to his lineage. The Night Mother's interest in recruiting the Dragonborn could partially stem from recognizing Aventus as significant to the Brotherhood's future. Maybe he's destined to become a listener, or even something greater. His childhood trauma merely the first chapter of a dark destiny that will reshape Tamriel's premier assassination cult. The Volkihar Vampire Conspiracy. Lord Harkon seeks Auriel's bow to blot out the sun and create eternal night for vampire supremacy, but his actual goals might extend beyond simple vampiric conquest. Vampires are cursed by Molag Bal, the Daedric Prince of Domination, making Harkon's power derivative of divine forces he pretends to command independently. The theory suggests Harkon doesn't just want vampire supremacy, but seeks to free vampires from Molag Bal's control entirely. Blocking the sun might be the first step in a larger ritual, aimed at severing the curse's connection to the Daedric Prince. If successful, Harkon would transform vampires from Molag Bal's slaves into independent undead with free will. This would explain why the Dawnguard questline matters cosmically beyond just saving daylight. a race of free-willed vampires unbound by Daedric control, could upset the entire power structure of Tamriel. They would retain undead immortality and supernatural powers without answering to any master. Harkon's megalomania might conceal genuine revolutionary goals that would terrify both Daedric princes and mortal kingdoms alike. The Moth Priest's hidden knowledge. The Moth Priest Dexion. Evicus reads Elder Scrolls, artifacts that show potential futures and drive readers to madness through incomprehensible knowledge. The Dawnguard questline requires his services to interpret the Elder Scroll, Sun, and locate Oriel's bow. After reading the scroll, Dexion provides necessary information, but his sanity noticeably deteriorates. The theory suggests Moth Priests don't just read Elder Scrolls, but absorb knowledge meant to remain hidden from mortals. Every scroll they interpret adds to accumulated cosmic awareness that gradually erodes their connection to linear reality. Dexion's apparent madness might be transcendence, his consciousness expanding beyond normal human limitations. The moth swarms that blind moth priests could be protective rather than purely symbolic, preventing them from seeing too much of reality simultaneously. Perhaps fully realized moth priests achieve something approaching CHIM, the state of awareness where individuals maintain identity while recognizing they exist within a dream. Dexion's fate after the questline remains ambiguous, possibly ascending to awareness that makes continued mortal existence impossible or unnecessary. The Synod versus College War. The Synod and College of Winterhold maintain tense relationship, with Synod representatives investigating Skyrim's magical practices with barely concealed contempt. The Synod represents the Empire's approved magical institution, viewing the college as frontier barbarians practicing dangerous, unregulated sorcery. However, evidence suggests deeper conflict than institutional rivalry. The Synod might be actively working to undermine or destroy the college, possibly at Thalmor urging. Their investigation of Labyrinthian and interest in the staff of Magnus suggests they knew about the Eye long before its discovery. Perhaps the Synod orchestrated events to ensure the college found and activated the Eye, hoping the subsequent catastrophe would justify imperial intervention. The theory holds that the Synod represents magical fascism, seeking monopolistic control over all magical practice throughout the Empire. The college's independence and acceptance of non-imperial traditions threatens this agenda. Future conflicts might see open warfare between these factions, with the Dragonborn's allegiance determining which philosophy dominates Tamriel's magical future. The Penitus Oculatus Mole. Commander Maro leads the Penitus Oculatus, the Emperor's personal security force tasked with protecting Titus Mede, the second during his Skyrim visit. Despite their supposed expertise, the Emperor dies if the Dark Brotherhood succeeds in their contract. The ease with which Astrid penetrates Penitus Oculatus' security and the Brotherhood infiltrates the Cataria suggests possible inside help. The theory proposes a mole within the Penitus Oculatus, someone feeding information to the Brotherhood or deliberately creating security vulnerabilities. Maro's own son serves as an agent, and his death during the Brotherhood questline feels almost sacrificial. Perhaps Maro knew the Emperor needed to die for political reasons and arranged circumstances enabling assassination while maintaining plausible deniability. The Emperor accepts his death with surprising calm, suggesting he expected or even arranged it. Maybe Titus Mede II wanted to die as martyr, his assassination destined to unite the Empire against common enemies. The Penitus Oculatus Mole might have been the Emperor himself, manipulating his own guards to ensure the Brotherhood succeeded in killing him. The Forge Master's Curse. The Ethereum Forge, discovered through the quest Lost to the Ages, allows creation of powerful artifacts from the rare Ethereum ore. The Dwemer discovered this forge and its capabilities before their disappearance, but conflicting claims over the forge's location sparked a war between Dwemer cities. The theory suggests the forge isn't just a crafting station, but a cursed artifact that brings ruin to whoever controls it. The Dwemer war over Ethereum might have weakened their civilization enough to make their final experiment with Kagranak's tools catastrophic. Katria, the ghost who guides the player to the forge, died trying to reach it, her obsession consuming her life. Perhaps the forge exerts supernatural influence, drawing seekers to it with promises of power while engineering their destruction. The Ethereum crown, shield, and staff, created at the forge, grant incredible abilities, but might corrupt their wielders over time. Ancient farmer and Dwemer corpses litter the approach to the forge, suggesting countless expeditions ended in death. Maybe the forge survived where Dwemer civilization did not, because it actively wanted to survive. A sapient location that feeds on those who seek its power. The giant's benevolence. Giants typically attack anyone who approaches too closely, but certain individuals like the Morning Giant near Talking Stone Camp display completely passive behavior. This giant stands guard over a dead mammoth, mourning its companion with obvious grief. Approaching close enough to loot the mammoth corpses provokes no hostile response, demonstrating emotional depth that contradicts their reputation as mindless brutes. The theory suggests giants possess intelligence rivaling or exceeding humans, but their solitary lifestyle and lack of complex material culture leads others to underestimate them. Giants might have sophisticated oral traditions passed through generations alongside their mammoth herds. Their astronomical rock paintings near campsites could represent genuine star mapping or mythological storytelling. Perhaps giants deliberately maintain their reputation as dangerous simpletons, knowing that being underestimated provides protection from exploitation. The Morning Giant displays grief that proves emotional complexity. If giants truly possess human-level intelligence, their treatment by other races becomes morally uncomfortable, approaching species-level oppression justified through convenient lies about their supposed primitiveness. The Butcher's true identity, the blood on the ice quest in Windhelm, involves investigating serial murders targeting young women, eventually leading to either Calixto Corium or Wunferth the Unliving as suspects. Evidence suggests Calixto committed the murders using necromantic rituals to attempt resurrecting his dead sister. However, the ease with which evidence frames Wunferth and the convenience of Calixto's later reveal raises questions. Some theorists suggest both men are guilty, collaborating on the murders while each believing the other ignorant of their involvement. Others propose the killer escaped justice entirely, with Calixto serving as convenient scapegoat. The most disturbing theory suggests the murders will never truly stop regardless of who dies. The ritual Calixto attempted might have succeeded partially, creating a revenant or vengeful spirit that continues killing even after his death. Windhelm's divided populace and focus on the civil war provide perfect cover for serial murder, and perhaps multiple killers operate simultaneously, their crimes attributed to a single butcher. The necklace Calixto sells contains necromantic enchantments that might corrupt future owners, spreading his murderous compulsions like a curse. The dragon language origins. The Thu'um derives from dragon language, with each word carrying reality-altering power when voiced properly. Dragons claim they created this language, teaching it to ancient Nords who became the first tongues. However, linguistic analysis reveals dragon language shares roots with languages used by the Aedra and Daedra, suggesting it predates dragons themselves. The theory proposes dragon language is fragment of the tonal architecture used to create Mundus, the spoken component of reality's fundamental structure. Dragons didn't invent this language, but remembered it from before time, back when they were Akatosh's direct servants witnessing creation. Each dragon word represents a concept so fundamental that speaking it forces reality to acknowledge and obey. This explains why dragons are immortal, and why only Dragonborn can permanently kill them by absorbing their souls. Dragons aren't just powerful creatures, but pieces of creation itself given flesh. Killing them should be impossible because they represent concepts, not organisms. The Dragonborn's ability to absorb dragon souls suggests the player character operates on the same ontological level, making them equally part of reality's fundamental structure rather than merely mortal. The companion's silver hand. Truth. The silver hand hunts werewolves with fanatical dedication, opposing the companions specifically because of their circle's lycanthropy. The companions paint the silver hand as mere hunters or even bandits, but evidence suggests more complex origins. The theory proposes the silver hand were once companions themselves, members who rejected the beast blood and splintered off to fight against the curse's corruption. Their intimate knowledge of companion tactics and locations suggests insider information from former membership. Perhaps the founder of the Silver Hand was a companion who watched the curse destroy people they loved, dedicating their remaining life to eradicating lycanthropy from Skyrim. Their use of silver weapons and anti-werewolf tactics demonstrates sophisticated understanding of the curse's weaknesses. The Silver Hand's apparent cruelty might be desperate pragmatism, knowing that werewolves cannot be reasoned with during blood rages. If this theory is accurate, the companion questline forces the player to destroy a resistance movement fighting against Hircine's corruption, making the Circle's hunt for a cure feel like too little, too late after enabling the curse's spread for generations. The Solitude Execution. The game opens with the player's attempted execution in Helgen, but if the player joins the Imperial Legion, they later witness Ulfric Stormcloak's potential execution in Solitude. The execution block in Solitude looks identical to Helgen's despite being in a completely different city. The headsman's axe never actually falls in either location, with dragon attacks or potential player intervention preventing the execution. The theory suggests these execution scenes are spiritually or temporally connected, possibly existing in quantum superposition, until the player's choices collapse them into single reality. The Dragonborn's presence at both executions isn't coincidence, but evidence that they exist partially outside linear time. Perhaps the player character died at Helgen, and everything afterward is dying dream or afterlife, making all of Skyrim's events happen in the instant before the axe falls. Alternatively, the executions could be Alduin's doing, his presence at Helgen breaking time in ways that cause paradoxes throughout Skyrim. The identical execution scenes might be the same moment viewed from different temporal angles, with reality's linear nature breaking down under the World Eater's influence. The Blackreach Civilization. Blackreach is a massive underground cavern system filled with Dwemer ruins, glowing fungi, and farmer camps, suggesting an entire civilization once flourished in perpetual darkness. The scale of Dwemer construction in Blackreach dwarfs their surface cities, raising questions about how much of their population actually lived underground. The theory suggests Dwemer society was primarily subterranean, with surface cities serving as mere outposts for a civilization that preferred depths. The architectural sophistication and preserved condition of Blackreach's structures implies they were occupied when the Dwemer vanished, meaning thousands or even millions might have disappeared from this single location, The central city, with its artificial sun, demonstrates technology exceeding anything found on the surface. Perhaps the Dwemer were preparing for some apocalypse, building Blackreach as refuge from whatever disaster they foresaw. The dragon Volthuriel trapped in Blackreach suggests the cavern system predates even Dwemer occupation, possibly carved by ancient forces or even natural. Whatever the Dwemer were building in Blackreach, they never finished. The incomplete nature of certain structures suggests they vanished mid-construction, frozen in time at the moment of their race's mysterious disappearance. The Archmage's cursed position. Every Archmage of the College of Winterhold dies, violently or mysteriously, creating a position that seems genuinely cursed. Aren, the previous Archmage, died fighting Ancano during the Eye of Magnus crisis. His predecessor died during the Great Collapse, and historical records show similar patterns extending back centuries. The theory suggests the Archmage position carries genuine supernatural curse, possibly placed by the Augur of Dunlane before his transformation into pure energy. The Augur's warnings to the player about the Eye suggest knowledge of catastrophic patterns that repeat cyclically. Perhaps each Archmage dies because the position inherently attracts dangerous magical phenomena, making violent death statistically inevitable. Alternatively, the title itself might be cursed by entities that oppose magical knowledge, Daedric princes or ancient spirits that murder each Archmage to prevent magical progress. The player character's survival as Archmage might only be temporary, with death guaranteed once the Dragonborn's unique protections wear off. The college's isolated position and poor relationship with Skyrim's other communities ensures nobody investigates these deaths thoroughly, allowing the curse to continue undetected and unstudied. The Augur's warning. The Augur of Dunlane exists as pure magical energy, the result of an experiment that destroyed his physical body, but somehow preserved consciousness. He speaks cryptically to the player, warning about the Eye of Magnus and the dangers of seeking too much knowledge. The theory suggests the Augur isn't trapped in his current state, but deliberately chose this transformation, possibly to prevent himself from becoming something worse. His experiment might have shown him terrible truths about reality that threatened his sanity and existence. By reducing himself to pure energy, the Augur prevented his physical form from being used or corrupted, while maintaining ability to offer warnings to future mages. His cryptic speech patterns could be translation difficulty, trying to express concepts beyond linguistic capability when consciousness no longer operates through physical brain. The Augur's interest in the Eye of Magnus suggests he knows what it truly is, and fears what might happen if it falls into wrong hands. Perhaps his experiment wasn't accidental failure, but desperate success, achieving transcendence that revealed knowledge so terrible he had to destroy his ability to act upon it while maintaining capacity to warn others. The Morag Tong's absence. The Morag Tong, Morrowind's legal assassination guild, has no presence in Skyrim despite their proximity to Dunmer refugees from the Red Year. The Dark Brotherhood operates throughout Skyrim, but their rivals remain conspicuously absent. The theory suggests the Morag Tong deliberately avoid Skyrim because of Dark Brotherhood strength in the region, or because they're planning something that requires staying hidden. Alternatively, the Morag Tong might have secret operatives in Skyrim disguised as ordinary Dunmer refugees, gathering intelligence while maintaining cover. The Tribunal's fall eliminated the religious authority that sanctioned Morag Tong contracts, potentially leaving them in existential crisis about their purpose. Perhaps they're restructuring their entire organization, and their absence from Skyrim reflects broader withdrawal from all foreign territories. The most sinister theory suggests the Morag Tong have been systematically eliminated by the Dark Brotherhood, with Astrid's sanctuary part of larger campaign to eradicate their rivals. Dead Morag Tong agents might be concealed among Skyrim's many unmarked corpses, evidence of secret war that neither guild will acknowledge publicly. The Bard's College secret. The Bard's College in Solitude trains performers and storytellers, but quest lines involving the college feel surprisingly thin compared to other guild quest lines. The theory suggests cut content originally involved darker secrets about the college's true purpose. Bards travel throughout Skyrim gathering information, making them perfect spies for whoever controls the college. Perhaps the Bard's College serves as front for Imperial intelligence network, with bards actually agents gathering intelligence on rebellion activities. Their headquarters in Solitude, the imperial capital of Skyrim, supports this theory. The emphasis on recovering King Olaf's verse might relate to propaganda control, ensuring certain stories get told while others are suppressed. Alternatively, the college could be neutral information brokers, selling intelligence to any party willing to pay, maintaining influence through knowledge rather than alliance. The headmaster's mysterious background and lack of performed artistry suggests he isn't truly a bard at all, but intelligence operative using the college as cover. Every graduate becomes part of this network, spreading throughout Skyrim to sing songs and report secrets. The Thieves, Guild Reformation. Mercer Frey's betrayal and theft of the Skeleton Key cursed the Thieves Guild with terrible luck for decades, but returning the key restores their fortunes almost immediately. The speed and completeness of this restoration raises questions about divine intervention's mechanics. The theory suggests Nocturnal doesn't actually care about the key's return, but uses the quest to test potential champions. The Skeleton Key opens any lock, including conceptual locks that bind reality together. Perhaps Nocturnal wanted Mercer to steal it, specifically to create conditions for the player's involvement. The guild's restoration isn't reward for returning the key, but recognition that the player character is interesting enough to deserve Nocturnal's attention. The Nightingale Trinity representing Nocturnal's earthly agents might be more significant than mortal comprehension allows. Perhaps Nightingales aren't just thieves, but maintain reality's barriers, preventing breaches between planes. The key's ability to open any lock includes locks, keeping Oblivion separate from Mundus, making its protection cosmically vital. Mercer's betrayal and subsequent quest might have been orchestrated by Nocturnal across decades to ensure the right person became her agent. The Face Sculptor's price. The Face Sculptor in the Ragged Flagon offers complete facial restructuring without explanation of how she acquired this impossible ability. No other character in Skyrim possesses this power, and magical limitations should prevent such comprehensive permanent physical transformation. The theory suggests she made a Daedric bargain, possibly with Boethia or Hermaeus Mora, trading something precious for this unique capability. Her location in the Thieves Guild headquarters isn't coincidence, but protection, hiding her from parties interested in her abilities or investigating the source of her power. Perhaps she's running from the consequences of her bargain, and the Daedric Prince will eventually come to collect what she owes. Alternatively, she might be Daedric herself, an aspect or servant of a prince operating in mortal form for unknown purposes. The faces she sculpts might not be purely cosmetic, but spiritually significant, each transformation binding participants to whatever entity granted her power. Every person she changes might unknowingly join a cult, or become marked for future service. The price she charges in gold seems absurdly low for such impossible service, suggesting her real payment comes from the transformations themselves rather than monetary exchange. The Gulda Amulet Secret. The Gulda Amulet questline reveals 3 brothers who murdered their father, Archmage Gulda, and stole his powerful amulet, dividing it between themselves. The brothers were hunted down and entombed separately with magical wards preventing their escape. The theory suggests the official story inverts the truth, with Gulda actually being the villain and his sons the heroes. Perhaps Gulda was transforming into a lich, or attempting some dark ritual that his sons recognized and opposed. Their murder might have been necessary execution, with them dividing the amulet to prevent its misuse, while ensuring no single person controlled its full power. The magical wards on their tombs could be self-imposed, the brothers accepting eternal imprisonment to keep the amulet secure. Historical records written by Gulda's supporters would naturally villainize his killers, making the sons appear as traitors rather than saviors. When the player reassembles the amulet and defeats the reforged Gulda in Reachwater Rock, they might be completing a cycle that shouldn't have been broken. The amulet's power to enhance health, magicka, and stamina simultaneously suggests it was never meant for mortal use, its capabilities exceeding safe limitations that Gulda crossed and his sons tried to contain. The Dwemer language. Dwemer language remains partially undeciphered, despite extensive study by scholars across multiple Elder Scrolls games. The Dwemer left vast libraries and detailed blueprints, yet their written language resists complete translation. The theory suggests Dwemer text isn't purely linguistic, but tonal architecture, encoded in written form. Reading it aloud might activate magical effects or even summon Dwemer technology, making translation genuinely dangerous. The College of Winterhold possesses numerous Dwemer texts, but avoids comprehensive translation attempts, possibly knowing the risks. Perhaps early attempts resulted in catastrophe, with scholars inadvertently triggering ancient Dwemer defenses or calling out to whatever realm the Dwemer now inhabit. The partially successful translations might be deliberately incomplete, providing enough information to understand Dwemer technology without accessing the truly dangerous knowledge they encoded. Some theorize certain Dwemer texts are mimetic hazards, information that damages or corrupts anyone who fully comprehends them. The Dwemer's obsession with logic and mathematics suggests they might have discovered mathematical truths that cannot be safely known by conscious minds. Their disappearance could have resulted from discovering and speaking the universe's kill command encoded in numbers and tones. The Khajiit Caravan. Khajiit trading caravans travel between major cities, but cannot enter because of prejudice and suspicion. Guards claim this policy prevents theft, but the consistency of the exclusion across all holes suggests coordinated policy rather than local prejudice. The theory proposes the caravans serve as intelligence network for elsewhere, possibly even Thalmor agents, despite Khajiit's official independence. Their exclusion from cities might be diplomatic courtesy, allowing them to operate while maintaining plausible deniability about their presence. The caravans have access to rare items including moon sugar and skooma, suggesting connections to criminal networks or special trade privileges. Perhaps they're monitoring the civil war for Elswere's government, gathering intelligence about Skyrim's stability to inform future diplomatic or military decisions. Alternatively, the caravans might be genuinely neutral merchants persecuted by baseless suspicion, with their exclusion representing Skyrim's casual racism toward beast races. The lack of any Khajiit residents in Skyrim cities supports this interpretation, suggesting systematic discrimination rather than individual prejudice. Either way, the caravans represent Khajiit interests in a land that treats their entire species as undesirable outsiders. The Crimson Nirn route. Regular Nirnroot emits audible chime and glows softly, growing near water sources throughout Skyrim. Crimson Nirnroot exists only in Blackreach, creating different sound and possessing unique properties. The quest, A Return to Your Roots, requires collecting 30 Crimson Nirnroot for study, but the quest giver's research never produces clear results about what makes them special. The theory suggests Crimson Nirnroot absorbed magical radiation from the Eye of Magnus, possibly explaining their unique properties and exclusive Blackreach location. Alternatively, they might be the original form of Nirnroot before surface variants evolved, preserved in Blackreach's unchanging environment. Dwemer experiments could have created them deliberately, breeding Nirnroot to thrive underground and possess enhanced alchemical properties. The plant's persistence in Blackreach millennia after the Dwemer's disappearance proves their remarkable resilience. Perhaps they're not plants at all, but some crystalline life form that resembles plants, possibly even artificial constructs the Dwemer created. The sound they emit might be communication between individual plants, creating a distributed intelligence that spans all of Blackreach. Collecting them could be disrupting an ancient network, with each harvested Nirnroot representing a node removed from whatever system they collectively maintain. The Wobberjack's Will. The Wobberjack is Sheogorath's artifact, a staff that randomly transforms targets into different creatures or objects with no predictable pattern. Obtaining it requires completing Sheogorath's quest, solving problems in Pelagius's mind, using the Wobberjack to fix mental illness. The theory suggests the Wobberjack isn't truly random, but expresses Sheogorath's will through seemingly chaotic transformations. Each effect it produces is precisely what Sheogorath wants to happen at that moment, disguised as madness to obscure the method in the madness. The staff might contain fragment of Sheogorath's consciousness, making it genuinely sapient and independently malicious. Wielding it creates connection to the mad god that slowly influences the user's sanity, spreading madness through proximity. Perhaps the Wobberjack's true purpose isn't combat but corruption, transforming wielders into Sheogorath's pawns through gradual mental erosion. The hero of Kvatch became Sheogorath through mantling, suggesting the process can repeat. Perhaps every Wobberjack wielder is potential candidate for becoming the next Sheogorath if they embrace madness thoroughly enough. The staff tests users, and those who fail its trial in interesting ways might be recruited for grander purposes within the Shivering Isles. The Ebony Blade's Whispers. The Ebony Blade is Mephalah's artifact, growing stronger as it's used to murder friends and allies. The sword whispers to its wielder, supposedly Mephalah's voice encouraging betrayal and murder. The theory suggests the whispers aren't truly Mephalah, but the voices of everyone the blade has killed throughout history. Each betrayal adds another soul to the sword, creating a chorus of the betrayed that drives wielders toward more murder. The blade's hunger for treachery specifically targets relationships of trust, possibly because betrayal produces particular forms of suffering Mephalah finds delicious. Perhaps the sword can't actually force betrayal, but amplifies existing darkness in people's hearts, revealing true nature rather than imposing foreign evil. This makes it particularly insidious because wielders can't blame external corruption for their actions. The blade's appearance in Whiterun's halls suggests Balgruuf's family harbors dark history, with Nelka's susceptibility to its whispers indicating inherited vulnerability to Mephalah's influence. The Daedric artifact might actually be protecting Whiterun through its presence, containing Mephalah's corrupting influence in single location, rather than allowing it to spread throughout the city unchecked. The Sibyl of Dibella. The Temple of Dibella in Markarth protects a young girl identified as the Sibyl of Dibella, through unknown divination methods. The Sibyl is supposedly touched by the goddess herself, possessing spiritual significance that justifies her seclusion and protection. When the player accidentally witnesses the ceremonies or steals the statue, the priestesses react with extreme urgency, suggesting the Sibyl's safety is genuinely critical. The theory proposes the Sibyl isn't just religiously significant, but genuinely possessed by divine presence, making her simultaneously human child and divine avatar. Dibella might be using her as anchor point to Mundus, maintaining influence in the mortal world through this connection. Perhaps the Sibyl's protected because hostile parties specifically target Dibella's mortal vessels, attempting to sever divine influence from Skyrim. The selection process for new Sibyls could be magical inheritance, with certain bloodlines carrying divine markers Dibella recognizes. Alternatively, the entire Sibyl tradition might be elaborate deception, with the priestesses manipulating a child to maintain religious authority, while no actual divine presence exists. The ambiguity of divine intervention in Elder Scrolls makes either interpretation plausible, leaving the Sibyl's true nature uncertain. The last Dragonborn prophecy. Alduin's return was prophesied by the ancient Akaviri, who recorded visions about the last Dragonborn, who would defeat the World Eater. The title Last Dragonborn is troublingly specific, suggesting the player character represents the final member of their kind. The theory proposes that after defeating Alduin, the Dragonborn blessing will cease manifesting in mortals, making the player character genuinely the last. Perhaps the blessing's purpose was specifically creating Alduin's destroyer, and once that purpose is fulfilled, Akatosh will withdraw it permanently. Alternatively, Last Dragonborn might be temporal rather than sequential, referring to the Dragonborn who exists at the end of time, defeating the dragon who ends worlds. If Alduin truly represents the apocalypse rather than a specific dragon, defeating him might not prevent the end, but merely delay it. The last Dragonborn could be the final being to exist before reality ends, speaking the last words in existence as everything collapses. This interpretation makes the prophecy both more grandiose and more terrifying, suggesting the player character's ultimate fate is witnessing reality's death after accomplishing everything else possible. The prophecy's fulfillment doesn't guarantee happy endings, but merely promises the Dragonborn will be present when everything ends. The Stones of Baranzyre. 24 Stones of Baranzyre are scattered throughout Skyrim in seemingly random locations, from bandit camps to Jarl's palaces. Collecting all of them provides significant financial reward through enhanced gem-finding abilities. The theory suggests these stones weren't randomly scattered, but deliberately placed by parties who benefited from their distribution. Perhaps Baranzyre herself scattered them, each stone serving as magical anchor or surveillance device, allowing her to monitor Skyrim remotely. The stone's presence in locations of power like Jarl's courts suggests they might be intelligence-gathering tools, with whoever controls the reassembled crown gaining access to information from each stone's location. Alternatively, the stones could be Daedric in origin, with their collection serving purposes beyond mortal comprehension. The reward for reassembly seems disproportionate to the effort required, suggesting the true reward isn't material wealth, but something else entirely. Perhaps reassembling the crown awakens dormant magic, or sends signal to distant parties that specific conditions have been fulfilled. The quest's lack of deeper story beyond treasure hunting might mask more significant implications that future games will reveal. The Hagraven's origins. Hagravens are twisted creatures combining human and bird features, wielding powerful magic, and serving as forsworn leaders or isolated witches. Their grotesque appearance and evil nature seem straightforward, but their origins remain mysterious. The theory suggests hagravens aren't corrupted humans, but willing transformations, with women deliberately choosing this form to gain power. The process requires ritual sacrifice, typically killing a loved one to prove dedication to dark powers. This makes hagravens sympathetic in a twisted way, representing desperate women who sacrificed everything, including humanity, for strength. Perhaps in societies like the Reach, where women face severe oppression, becoming a hagraven offers only path to power and independence. Their monstrous appearance could be price of freedom rather than corruption, a trade they accepted fully aware of consequences. Alternatively, hagravens might be much older than current Forsworn, representing remnants of ancient Reachman religion that predates Nordic occupation. They could be priestesses of forgotten gods, maintaining traditions thousands of years old while appearing as monsters to uninitiated. Their association with Daedra might be survival adaptation, allying with any power that preserves their ancient ways against extinction. The Dragon Priest masks. 8 dragon priests scattered across Skyrim guard powerful masks, each granting unique abilities to whoever wears them. Collecting all 8 unlocks access to Bromjunar Sanctuary, where the 9th mask, Konahrik, can be claimed. The theory suggests these priests aren't truly dead, but sleeping, with the masks containing their consciousness while their bodies desiccate. Wearing a mask creates mental link with the priest who originally owned it, slowly imposing their personality on the wearer. Perhaps the masks were designed to ensure dragon priests could return, possessing anyone foolish enough to don their masks. The player character's strong will prevents full possession, but normal mortals would be completely overtaken. Konarik's mask, meaning warlord in dragon language, suggests it was meant for a leader commanding all 8 priests. Perhaps ancient dragons intended to use these masks to create an army of controlled mortals, with priests serving as immortal lieutenants that could be resurrected by possession indefinitely. The Dragonborn collecting and wearing them disrupts this plan, trapping priest consciousness inside someone they cannot control or corrupt. The Sarthal Secret. Sarthal was the first human city in Skyrim, destroyed during the Night of Tears when snow elves attacked. The massacre was supposedly motivated by fear of human population growth, but evidence suggests the elves were after something specific. Deep beneath Sarthal's ruins lies the Eye of Magnus, an artifact of immense power predating even the Dwemer. The theory proposes snow elves knew about the Eye and attacked specifically to prevent humans from discovering or using it. Perhaps ancient elven records documented the Eye's location, and they monitored Sarthal, waiting for signs humans were excavating too deep. Their attack wasn't genocidal aggression, but desperate preemptive strike against existential threat. If humans had discovered and utilized the Eye millennia earlier, they might have wiped out elven civilization entirely. The Night of Tears, traditionally understood as unprovoked massacre, transforms into tragic but comprehensible strategic decision if viewed through this lens. The Snow Elves' degradation into Falmer might be karmic punishment for their attack, or perhaps direct result of magical forces unleashed by their proximity to the Eye during the battle. Sarthal's ruins remained undisturbed for millennia because both humans and elves knew the danger sleeping beneath it. The college's true purpose. The College of Winterhold occupies ancient ruins that survived the Great Collapse, while the rest of the city fell into the sea. The college's position on a rocky outcrop suggests it was built deliberately on stable ground, possibly by architects who knew the city was endangered. The theory proposes the college wasn't just a school, but a containment facility, built specifically to keep the Eye of Magnus buried and sealed. The collapse might have been caused by college mages attempting to study or move the eye, with the resulting magical backlash destroying the city. The college survived because its wards were designed to protect against magical catastrophe, proving their function exactly when needed. Perhaps the archmages knew about the eye for generations, maintaining secrecy while studying it carefully. The current college members might be ignorant of the true purpose, with knowledge deliberately fragmented after the collapse to prevent future disasters. Ankno's attack and attempt to harness the eye's power represents the ultimate proof that the containment facility failed its primary objective. The college's rebuild and continued operation might be attempting to restore the original purpose, ensuring the eye remains contained and monitored indefinitely. The Daedric artifact's purpose. Daedric artifacts scattered throughout Skyrim grant immense power, but often corrupt their wielders or demand terrible prices. Each artifact has existed for millennia, passing between owners and causing legendary events. The theory suggests the artifacts aren't just weapons or tools, but Daedric princes' way of influencing Mundus without directly manifesting. Each artifact contains fragment of its prince's consciousness or power, making it an extension of the deity in mortal realm. Wielding an artifact creates bond between user and prince that persists beyond death. Perhaps every artifact user is building relationship that pays dividends in afterlife, serving their prince eternally in oblivion. The princes deliberately scatter and lose artifacts, knowing mortals will rediscover and use them, spreading their influence like infection through history. The player character's ability to collect multiple artifacts without apparent corruption might mark them as special, possibly even concerning to the Daedric princes who created these tools. Perhaps the Dragonborn's dragon's soul prevents full corruption, creating unique situation where mortal can wield multiple Daedric artifacts simultaneously without being dominated by any single prince. This makes the protagonist incredibly dangerous to existing power structures, both mortal and divine. The Wooden Mask's time loop. The wooden mask found in Bromlunar Sanctuary allows travel to a time when the Dragon Priest Shrine stood intact, though what this truly represents remains unclear. When worn, the decayed sanctuary transforms into its pristine state, complete with functioning dragon statue and pedestals for 8 Dragon Priest masks. A scholar's corpse lies near the mask, alongside a mysterious note warning of dangers. Based on the physical evidence, this could imply the mask creates a pocket dimension, preserving a specific moment rather than true time travel. The invisible barrier preventing exit from the room while wearing the mask suggests containment rather than passage. We might infer that previous users, like the deceased scholar, discovered something troubling about this temporal mechanism. The fact that placing masks on pedestals in this shifted state affects physical reality, when you return hints at connections between timelines that defy conventional understanding. Dragon priests were granted masks that reportedly defy the laws of time, according to historical texts, which could explain this unusual temporal phenomenon. The Shadow Marks' Secret War. Shadow marks appear throughout Skyrim as Thieves' Guild symbols marking safe houses, targets, and dangers, carved into stone and wood in places most citizens never notice. These marks use specific geometric patterns that some scholars have compared to ancient Nordic ward symbols, though whether this represents genuine connection or coincidence remains debated. The symbol's widespread distribution suggests an organized communication network spanning the entire province. What makes them particularly intriguing is how often people walk past these marks without consciously registering them, which could imply either exceptional camouflage or perhaps subtle enchantment affecting perception. Each mark conveys specific meaning to guild members: empty for worthless locations, protected for dangerous marks, guild for safe houses. The fact that these symbols appear on both recent structures and ancient ruins hints at traditions predating the current Thieves Guild organization. Based on their placement and consistency, we might infer they serve purposes beyond simple messaging, potentially functioning as navigation system or territorial markers. The Notched Pickaxe Prophecy. The notched pickaxe rests atop the throat of the world at Skyrim's highest point, accessible only through dangerous climbing from the summit where Paarthurnax dwells. This unique pickaxe bears enchantments that improve smithing and deal extra damage to Draugr and other undead. The name clearly references Notch, creator of Minecraft, making it an intentional reference by Bethesda's developers. What makes its placement interesting is the dedication required to reach it. No ordinary miner would scale this impossible height. The enchantments themselves seem oddly specific for a mining tool, particularly the bonus against undead, based on its location at the literal peak of Skyrim where earth meets sky. This could imply significance beyond simple tribute. Ancient Nordic texts mention that high places hold spiritual importance, bringing seekers closer to the gods. The pickaxe's improved effectiveness against undead might suggest it was placed as symbolic weapon against death itself, though this remains purely interpretive. The Blackreach Sun's Secret. The glowing orb hanging in Blackreach's center illuminates the vast underground cavern with artificial daylight. When struck with the unrelenting force shout or other significant impact, it summons Volthuriel, a unique dragon that emerges from the depths. This dragon's presence deep underground contradicts typical dragon behavior. Most dragons prefer mountain peaks and open skies. The orb itself appears to be Dwemer construction, matching their distinctive brass aesthetic and architectural style. Based on Volthuriel's sudden appearance only after disturbing the orb, we might infer the dragon was somehow bound to or imprisoned near this mechanism. The name Volthuriel translates from dragon language to Dark Overlord Green, suggesting possible ancient history with Blackreach. Whether the dragon was trapped by the Dwemer or chose to dwell in these depths remains unclear. The orb's dual function as light source and apparent dragon summons hints at Dwemer engineering we don't fully understand, possibly serving purposes beyond simple illumination. The Mournful Giant's Intelligence. Near Talking Stone Camp stands a giant mourning over a dead mammoth, displaying what appears to be genuine grief. Unlike most giants who attack on sight, this particular giant remains completely passive even when approached closely. The scene reveals emotional depth that contradicts common assumptions about giant intelligence and mental capacity. Giants do create astronomical paintings near their camps, crude star charts that demonstrate observational ability and possibly record-keeping across seasons. Their herding of mammoths requires understanding of animal behavior and migration patterns. Based on this mourning behavior and other evidence, we might infer giants possess more sophisticated consciousness than most Nords acknowledge. Whether they deliberately maintain their reputation as simple brutes to avoid exploitation, or whether cultural barriers prevent meaningful communication, remains unknown. The refusal to attack even when this giant's companion lies dead suggests moral framework and self-control. This particular giant may be performing funeral rites required by giant culture, ceremonies humans have simply never witnessed before. The Eyes of the Falmer. Truth. The Eyes of the Falmer are enormous gemstones embedded in a secret statue within Erkenthand, a Dwemer ruin. According to the Thieves Guild questline, these gems are extremely valuable and were built into a statue depicting a snow elf. Historical texts suggest the former, the corrupted descendants of snow elves, built this statue in secret during their enslavement by the Dwemer. The statue represents one of the last known depictions of what snow elves looked like before their transformation. Based on the gem's prominent placement in the eyes and their sacred positioning, this could imply they held religious or cultural significance beyond mere decoration. The statue's hidden location suggests it was built covertly, possibly as memorial to lost culture. When Mercer Frey removes the gems, the cavern collapses, which might indicate protective enchantments triggering upon desecration. Whether this represents deliberate magical defense or coincidental structural failure remains unclear. The former's effort to create such a monument while enslaved demonstrates they retained cultural memory and artistic capability even after their corruption began. The Baranzaya Stone Network. 24 stones of Baranzaya scatter across Skyrim in locations ranging from bandit camps to Jarl palaces. Collecting all 24 and returning them to Vex at the Thieves Guild restores the crown and grants enhanced gem-finding abilities. The stone's distribution across such varied locations, from the College of Winterhold to the Dark Brotherhood Sanctuary, seems remarkably deliberate for random scattering. Each stone appears as unusual gem, and their placement in both criminal hideouts and seats of power raises questions about how they came to be so widely dispersed. Based on the crown's significance to Dunmer history and Queen Baranzaya's legendary status, we might infer these stones were either deliberately hidden or scattered during historical turmoil. The enhanced ability to find precious gems after reassembly could suggest the crown possessed this property originally. Whether Baranzaya herself scattered them, or whether they were taken and distributed after her death, remains unexplained. The quest provides no definitive answer about the crown's original fate or the stone's journey across Skyrim. The college's collapse conspiracy. The Great Collapse destroyed most of Winterhold in 4E 122, sending the majority of the city into the Sea of Ghosts. The College of Winterhold survived completely intact, while everything around it fell into the ocean. This selective destruction fuels resentment among survivors, many of whom blame the college's magical experiments for the disaster. The Jarl and numerous citizens openly distrust the college because of this history. Official explanations point to possible geological instability, with some suggesting a glacier beneath the city might have shifted. The college's location on stable bedrock could explain its survival through natural means. However, the precision of the destruction, where one structure survives while surrounding buildings collapse, raises questions that haven't been definitively answered. Based on the timing and selectivity, some theorize the Sigic Order might have been involved, though no evidence supports this claim. The Eye of Magnus, discovered centuries later buried beneath Sarthal, might have caused magical resonance affecting Winterhold's foundations, though this remains pure speculation. The Headless Horseman's Curse. A spectral rider appears randomly at night, galloping toward Hamvir's Rest without acknowledging observers. His headless state and ghostly horse suggest curse binding him to ride eternally between locations. The horseman might be cursed warrior doomed to ride forever for failing to protect Hamvir in life, seeking redemption through endless repetition of his final ride. Alternatively, he could be collecting souls, serving as psychopomp for Nordic dead, by riding to claim fallen warriors for Sovngarde. His appearance might predict nearby death, with the horseman manifesting before someone dies rather than after. The helmeted skull found at Hamvir's Rest could be the rider's head, buried separately from his body and dooming him to search eternally without reuniting body and skull. Following him leads to Draga-infested ruins, suggesting his ride marks locations where death has claimed warriors and trapped their spirits. Perhaps completing unknown objectives at Hamvir's Rest would free him, but without dialogue or quests, the horseman remains as mysterious as the fog through which he rides. The hidden vendor chests. Secret chests containing merchant inventories can be found hidden beneath textures in several cities, revealing game mechanics, but possibly representing intentional lore. Perhaps these chests exist in-universe as pocket dimensions where merchants store goods using spatial manipulation magic. The chest's physical locations beneath cities could be magical anchors for extra-dimensional storage, similar to how the Night Mother's coffin serves as portal. Merchants might access these spaces through spells that manifest items from hidden locations, explaining how they carry unlimited stock without visible storage. The Khajiit caravan's exclusion from cities could relate to this system, as city authorities might fear caravan merchants accessing storage networks they don't control. Perhaps the chests were originally Dwemer technology, abandoned storage nodes that modern merchants discovered and repurposed. Their locations beneath ground suggest connection to Blackreach or other underground networks where Dwemer civilization flourished. The Crimson Nirnroot sentience. Crimson Nirnroot exists exclusively in Blackreach, creating different chiming sounds than surface Nirnroot and possessing unique alchemical properties. Avrusa, Serethi in the Rift seeks 30 samples for alchemical research. These plants emit a distinctive red glow and produce tones subtly different from their surface cousins. Based on their exclusive underground habitat and altered appearance, we might infer they represent an adapted variety that evolved in Blackreach's unique environment. The persistent chiming sound they produce has led some to wonder if it serves communication between plants, though whether this indicates true intelligence or simple biological signaling remains unknown. The quest to collect 30 specimens provides no definitive answers about their origin. They may be descendants of surface Nirnroot that adapted to underground conditions over millennia, or they could represent original form preserved in Blackreach's unchanging environment, while surface varieties evolved differently. The Dwemer's known botanical cultivation suggests they might have engineered or at least maintained these plants. The Reaper's true purpose. The Reaper haunts the Soul Cairn as hidden boss, seemingly serving as warden of this Daedric purgatory. Defeating it requires finding 3 Reaper gem fragments scattered throughout the realm, suggesting deliberate test rather than simple guardian duty. Perhaps the Reaper exists to prevent souls from escaping the Soul Cairn, serving ideal masters by destroying anyone who discovers the fragments and dares challenge it. The gems might be pieces of the Reaper's essence, scattered to weaken it and prevent it from leaving the Soul Cairn itself. Alternatively, the Reaper could be imprisoned soul that achieves such power in death that it dominates other trapped spirits. Its humanoid appearance beneath the hood suggests it was once mortal, possibly a legendary necromancer who became too powerful even for the ideal masters to control completely. The fight might be test of worthiness, with the Reaper evaluating whether challengers deserve to leave the Soul Cairn with knowledge of soul. Manipulation. Angie's hidden purpose. Angie lives in isolated cabins southeast of Haldir's Cairn, offering archery training to those who find her remote home. She claims to be hiding from the Imperial Legion after killing 2 soldiers who murdered her parents. Her archery range and willingness to train strangers suggest purpose beyond simple hermitage. Perhaps Angie prepares warriors for larger conflict, operating as guerrilla trainer for Stormcloak sympathizers or other anti-Imperial forces. Her location near Riften places her strategically for monitoring Imperial movements while maintaining deniability. the skill book in her cabin, and her own master-level archery indicate professional military training, suggesting she was more than civilians seeking revenge. Perhaps Angie was elite archer in service to Skyrim before her parents' death, and her revenge killing was actually eliminating Imperial officers who discovered intelligence she was gathering. Her challenges test not just accuracy, but speed under pressure, training appropriate for combat rather than hunting. The Four Totems Mystery, the Underforge. Beneath the companion's headquarters contains 4 animal spirit totems representing wolf, bear, saber cat, and stag. These totems predate the current companions, suggesting ancient werewolf traditions tied to different beast spirits. The bear, cat, and stag totems imply werewolf curse might be adaptable to other animal forms, with wolf being merely current manifestation. Perhaps the ancient companions experimented with different beast transformations before settling on wolf form. The totems might represent rejected alternatives or honored ancestors who took different shapes. Alternatively, they could mark spiritual pacts with multiple animal spirits, with Hircine's wolf blessing being only the most recent. The stag totem is particularly intriguing given that stags represent Hircine himself in some traditions, suggesting the companion's connection to the Daedric Prince extends deeper than they acknowledge. Perhaps achieving mastery over all 4 totems would grant complete shapeshifter abilities, allowing transformation into any beast form. The Gulder Brothers' Truth. The Gulder Amulet questline reveals 3 brothers who murdered their father Archmage Gulder and divided his powerful amulet between themselves. The official story paints the sons as traitors, but evidence suggests the narrative might invert the truth. Perhaps Gulder was transforming into Lich, or attempting dark ritual that his sons recognized and opposed. Their murder might have been necessary execution, with amulet division preventing its misuse, while ensuring no single person controlled its full power. Historical records written by Gulder's supporters would naturally villainize his killers, making the sons appear as traitors rather than saviors. The magical wards on their tombs could be self-imposed, with brothers accepting eternal imprisonment to keep the amulet secure from those who would misuse it. When the Dragonborn reassembles the amulet and defeats the reforged Gulder in Reachwater Rock, they might be completing cycle that shouldn't have been broken. The Phial's infinite power. The White Phial is legendary alchemical container supposedly capable of holding any substance and granting unique properties. Nurelion spends his life searching for it, and after his death, the Dragonborn recovers it from Forsaken Cave. The Phial's ability to create any potion without ingredients defies natural law, suggesting it draws materials from elsewhere. Perhaps the Phial functions as portal to alchemical dimension, where pure essences exist, manifesting whatever the holder desires through dimensional manipulation. The cultists who originally possessed it might have used it for purposes beyond simple potion making, possibly sustaining themselves eternally through substances it created. Nurelion's obsession could have been magically induced by the Phial itself, drawing those who could recover it from its hiding place. The repaired Phial's limitation to specific potion types might represent safety measures preventing misuse of its true unlimited potential. Valder's survival story. Valder survives alone in a cave after his hunting party was killed by bandits, but details of his story raise questions about what really happened. His wounds and isolated position suggest the attack wasn't random, but targeted assassination disguised as banditry. Perhaps Valder's companions discovered something the bandits wanted to keep secret, making the entire party targets for elimination. Valder's survival could be intentional, with attackers leaving him alive to spread specific story while eliminating witnesses who knew the truth. The cave where he hides might contain evidence of whatever his party discovered, hidden where casual searchers wouldn't find it. Alternatively, Volder himself might be unreliable narrator, his trauma distorting memories of events that unfolded differently than he believes. The Lakeview Massacre. A burnt house near the Lakeview Manor homestead contains family killed in their home with no clear explanation. The scene appears to be simple tragedy, but careful examination reveals inconsistencies suggesting something more sinister. The family's positioning indicates they weren't surprised by attackers, but rather gathered deliberately, possibly performing ritual before their deaths. Burn patterns suggest fire started simultaneously in multiple locations, inconsistent with accident or normal arson. Perhaps the family attempted dangerous magic that backfired catastrophically, or they were sacrificed by someone they trusted who knew they would gather. The location near potential homestead site might be warning about the land itself, suggesting the area carries curse that affects those who settle there. The Necromancer's Stone Secret. The ritual stone grants power to reanimate multiple corpses simultaneously, but its origin and purpose remain mysterious. Unlike other standing stones blessed by guardian constellations, the ritual stone's power seems uniquely dark. Perhaps it wasn't created by the same divine forces that blessed other stones, but was corrupted or replaced by necromantic cult. The stone's ability might be curse rather than blessing, slowly transforming users into undead themselves through repeated exposure to necromantic energy. Its placement in Whiterun Hold near major roads suggests it was positioned where many would find it, possibly spreading corruption deliberately. The Guardian Stone constellation might have been usurped by forces opposed to the Divines, turning what should be protective blessing into vector for undeath spread. Lost Valkyg's purpose. Volskygr is Nordic ruin containing dragon priest Volsung and a word wall. But the ruin's architecture suggests purposes beyond simple tomb. The extensive catacomb system and strategic mountain location indicate it once served military function, possibly as fortress or command post. Perhaps Volskygr was Dragon Cult's regional headquarters during Dragon rule, coordinating control over surrounding territories. The long ascent to the summit word wall recreates Pilgrim's Journey, suggesting the site held religious significance beyond its tactical value. Volsung's continued guardianship implies he watches for something specific, possibly awaiting dragon return or protecting knowledge the wall contains. The combination of military architecture and religious symbolism indicates Volskygr bridged temporal and spiritual power in ways modern Nords no longer understand. The Pelagius Wing's lingering madness. The Pelagius Wing of the Blue Palace remains sealed because of strange happenings, officially explained as Pelagius III's lingering madness. The wing's condition suggests something more substantial than mere superstition keeps it closed. Perhaps Pelagius's mental illness was actually a supernatural entity that possessed him, and the wing remains haunted by whatever drove him mad. Sheogorath's quest into Pelagius's mind reveals the Emperor's consciousness still exists in tormented state, suggesting his madness might leak from his psyche into physical world. The Daedric Prince's involvement indicates Pelagius's condition wasn't natural mental illness, but divine curse or possession. Perhaps sealing the wing contains manifestations of madness itself, preventing it from spreading to others who dwell in the palace. The strange happenings could be reality breaks where Pelagius's tortured psyche bleeds through dimensional barriers. The Potima ritual's failure. Potima the Wolf Queen attempts resurrection through necromantic ritual in her catacombs beneath Solitude. But the ritual's failure raises questions about who organized it and why. The necromancers conducting the ceremony possess significant power and resources, suggesting backing from wealthy patron or organized cult. Perhaps Potema's resurrection was never the true goal, but rather cover for accessing her catacombs for different purpose. The Wolf Queen's spirit might have been manipulated by those who claimed to serve her, using her legend to justify presence while pursuing their own objectives. Alternatively, the ritual might have partially succeeded, transferring fragments of Potema's consciousness into vessels prepared beforehand. Her defeat could be intentional sacrifice, with her spirit's destruction freeing it to inhabit new host without the Dragonborn's knowledge. The Golden Glow Estate Conspiracy. Aringoth operates Golden Glow Estate as bee farm and meadery, but the property's involvement with Thieves Guild and Maven Blackbriar suggests more complex operations. The estate's strategic location and substantial income indicate it serves purposes beyond simple honey production. Perhaps Golden Glow functions as smuggling hub, using honey shipments to conceal contraband moving through Riften's commerce network. Aringoth's willingness to defy Maven suggests either incredible bravery or backing from power. Maven fears. The option to burn beehives during the Thieves Guild quest reveals the operation's fragility despite its profitability. Perhaps Golden Glow was always meant to be a disposable asset, its destruction planned to eliminate evidence when it had served its purpose. The Frostflow Abyss Horror. Frostflow Lighthouse contains family killed by Chorus and Falmer, emerging from beneath the structure. The father's journal chronicles their arrival and the nightmare that followed. The lighthouse's placement and the creature's emergence suggest the family unknowingly built directly above Falmer tunnels. The journal's final entries reveal father's transformation into Chorus Reaper, suggesting Falmer were cultivating him rather than simply attacking. Perhaps the family was deliberately drawn to this location by subtle magic, positioning them where Falmer could harvest them for their transformation. Experiments. The lighthouse beam's magical quality might have attracted Falmer attention from below, or the family might have activated dormant Dwemer technology that alerted subterranean dwellers to surface activity. The Ironbind Barrow. Mystery. Ironbind Barrow is sealed by magical barriers requiring 3 different sources to unlock, suggesting importance beyond typical Nord tomb. Inside, Balamund requests the player retrieve his grandfather's notes on smithing, but the tomb's security seems excessive for simple journals. Perhaps the notes contain knowledge more valuable than crafting techniques, possibly describing Dwemer metalworking secrets or enchantment methods. The barriers sealing the tomb could have been placed by Balamund's ancestors to protect this knowledge from those who would misuse it. Alternatively, something else lies in Ironbind Barrow that the family didn't want discovered, with the smithing notes serving as decoy to explain the expedition's purpose. The Sarthal Eye Discovery. The Eye of Magnus lies buried beneath Sarthal, the ancient Nord city destroyed during the Night of Tears. The College of Winterhold excavates the site and discovers this powerful artifact. The Eye's presence at this specific location raises interesting questions about the attack's true motivation. Historical accounts describe the Night of Tears as an unprovoked massacre where snow elves attacked Sarthal and killed most inhabitants, sparing only Ysgramor and his sons. However, the Eye's discovery beneath the ruins introduces a complicating factor. Based on this evidence, some scholars have wondered whether snow elves might have known about the Eye's location and attacked to prevent Nords from discovering it. This interpretation would reframe the traditionally understood massacre as a preemptive strike motivated by fear of what humans might do with such power. Whether snow elves possessed this knowledge or the attack was unrelated to the eye's presence cannot be determined from available evidence. The timing could be mere coincidence, or it could suggest deeper strategic thinking than typically attributed to the attack. The Windhelm Grey Quarter. Windhelm segregates Dark Elves into the Grey Quarter, officially explained as cultural preservation, but clearly representing systematic discrimination. The Quarter's poverty and neglect reveal Ulfric Stormcloak's selective enforcement of Nordic values. Despite claiming to fight for Skyrim's freedom, Ulfric tolerates oppression within his own city walls. Perhaps this hypocrisy is strategic, using the Grey Quarter as pressure valve for Nordic resentment that might otherwise target his leadership. Alternatively, Ulfric might genuinely believe in Nord supremacy despite his rhetoric about freedom, fighting against imperial oppression while supporting different oppression at home. The Grey Quarter's proximity to the palace suggests Ulfric wants refugees visible and contained where they can be monitored. Perhaps he fears Dark Elf infiltrators working for Morrowind interests, or Thalmor agents hiding among desperate refugees. The Scholar's Warning. A dead scholar lies in Bromjuna Sanctuary, beside the wooden mask, his note warning of temporal dangers. His mercenaries apparently killed him in panic after witnessing something terrifying when he wore the mask. The scholar's fate suggests the wooden mask shows users more than simply the past, perhaps revealing truths about time's nature that break human minds. Maybe he witnessed the moment dragon priests placed the masks or saw future events that drove him mad. The mercenaries' extreme reaction indicates they saw or heard something so disturbing they murdered their employer rather than let him continue. Perhaps wearing the mask allows dragon priest spirits to observe the wearer, and the scholar realized he had exposed himself to their eternal attention. The Honningbrew Takeover. Sabjorn attempts to sabotage Honningbrew Meadery by introducing pest problem, planning to frame competitor while appearing as hero. The plot's complexity suggests involvement from larger organization orchestrating events. Perhaps Maven Blackbriar planned Honningbrew's downfall long before approaching Sabjorn, manipulating him into a scheme that benefits only her. The poisoning could have been intentional outcome rather than accident, eliminating potential witnesses while giving Maven excuse to seize the business. Sabjorn's imprisonment removes him from equation perfectly, transferring Meadery ownership to Maven without obvious connection to the Thieves Guild. The entire quest might be demonstration of Maven's power, showing that she can destroy businesses, imprison rivals, and acquire assets through proxies without direct involvement. The Somerset Shadows. The Somerset Shadows operate as criminal organization in Windhelm, apparently composed of Altmer thieves. Their presence in Ulfric City is suspicious given his anti-elf rhetoric and the Grey Quarter's treatment. Perhaps the Shadows are Thalmor front organization, gathering intelligence while appearing as common criminals. Their sophisticated operation and magical abilities exceed typical bandit capabilities, suggesting professional training and significant resources. The Guild War questline reveals them as major threat to Thieves Guild interests, indicating they control substantial criminal infrastructure. Perhaps their theft operation is cover for espionage, stealing items while gathering information for Thalmor intelligence services. The Kilcreath Ruins purpose. Kilcreath Ruins contain shrine to Meridia and serve as location for her quest, but the ruins' architecture suggests more complex history. The combination of Nordic and Aeoliad elements indicates the site predates current understanding of Skyrim's occupation. Perhaps ancient Nords built here atop even older Aeoliad foundation, drawn to location by Meridia's influence. The extensive undead infestation before Meridia's intervention suggests the site has been corrupted repeatedly throughout history. Maybe Kilcreath marks a weak point where barriers between Mundus and oblivion grow thin, making it valuable to both Daedric princes and mortal civilizations. Meridia's beacon being found in random locations across Skyrim could indicate it seeks worthy champions by manifesting near those with potential. The Ancestor Glade secret. The Ancestor Glade contains unique moths required for reading Elder Scrolls without permanent blindness. The Glade's isolated location and specialized ecosystem suggest deliberate cultivation rather than natural occurrence. Perhaps ancient moth priests established this sanctuary, creating an environment where moths would breed and maintain the knowledge required for Elder Scroll interpretation. The swarm's cooperation in temporarily granting sight beyond sight indicates magical symbiosis between moths and humans. Maybe the moths were once people themselves, transformed into new form that allows them to perceive Elder Scrolls' true nature. Their willingness to share this perception with drawing the Dragonborn's blood suggests they recognize the player character's significance to prophecy. The Forgotten Vale revelation. The Forgotten Vale hides the chantry of Auriel and represents last bastion of uncorrupted snow elf civilization. Its discovery reveals that some snow elves escaped both Nordic genocide and Dwemer betrayal. Knight Paladin Gelibor guards the chantry alone after his brother Vertha's vampiric corruption, maintaining ancient rites despite knowing his culture has fallen. The Vale's magical concealment has protected it for millennia, suggesting powerful enchantments or divine intervention keeping it hidden. Perhaps Auriel himself maintains the barrier, preserving final sanctuary of his most faithful worshippers. Gelibor's survival indicates other isolated communities might exist elsewhere, hidden so thoroughly that even Thalmor, censors cannot locate them. The Five Paragons' power. Frost giants in the Forgotten Vale carry paragon gems that unlock portals to hidden locations. Each paragon corresponds to a specific portal, suggesting deliberate system rather than random treasure. Perhaps the giants serve as unwitting guardians, carrying keys they don't understand for mechanisms they cannot use. The paragons might be Dwemer technology integrated with snow elf magic, creating a hybrid system combining both civilizations' knowledge. Their portal activation suggests spatial manipulation similar to what the Dwemer achieved, but refined through elven understanding of magical theory. The 5 locations accessed might have been critical to snow elf civilization, secured behind giant guardians after the fall. Touching the Sky's warning. The Touching the Sky quest requires pilgrimage through trials representing enlightenment's path. The Wayshrine journey mirrors snow elf spiritual tradition, but Vertha's corruption suggests these sacred sites can be perverted. His use of Auriel's bow to block the sun represents ultimate blasphemy, weaponizing most holy artifact against its intended purpose. Perhaps the trials serve dual function, both testing worthy pilgrims and containing power, preventing catastrophe. Vertha's ability to corrupt the system indicates fundamental weakness in snow elf magical practices. Maybe this vulnerability contributed to their fall, as safeguards designed for honorable culture failed against enemies willing to corrupt sacred traditions. The Labyrinthian's true function. Labyrinthian contains Dragon Priest Shrine and extensive maze-like passages that suggest purposes beyond simple temple. The complex architecture indicates it served as dragon cult capital during dragon rule. Perhaps Labyrinthian was administrative center, where dragon priests coordinated control over Skyrim's subjugated humans. The maze design might have been ceremonial, forcing petitioners to navigate confusion before reaching Shrine's inner sanctum. Alternatively, The passages could be defensive, creating kill zones where intruders would become lost and vulnerable. The name itself suggests confusion was intentional feature rather than consequence of decay. Maybe the maze served both purposes, teaching humility to worshippers while protecting sacred spaces from enemies. The shrine's temporal mechanics, with the wooden mask, indicate Labyrinthian exists partially outside normal time, possibly explaining its preservation despite extreme age. The Mehrunes Razor fragments. Mehrunes Razor splits into fragments hidden across Skyrim, requiring reassembly before the blade regains power. The deliberate scattering suggests someone attempted to prevent the Daedric artifact's use. Perhaps Mehrunes' worshippers divided the blade to protect it from theft, or enemies dismantled it to neutralize its threat. Each fragment's guardian represents different approach to security, from scholars to warriors to worshippers. The blade's power to instantly kill targets defies natural law, functioning more like reality editing than simple weapon. Maybe Mehrunes' Razor doesn't kill but erases, removing victims from existence so thoroughly that even resurrection magic cannot restore them. The fragment's distribution pattern might map meaningful locations in Mehrunes' worship or mark sites where the prince's influence manifests strongly. The Boethia's proving ground. Boethia demands sacrifice of follower before granting champion status, revealing the prince's philosophy of betrayal and ambition. The Cecellum of Boethia serves as proving ground, where cultists murder each other for Daedric favor. This tournament demonstrates Boethia's belief that power justifies treachery and strongest deserve victory regardless of methods. Perhaps the arena contains souls of all previous champions, their consciousness absorbed into the prince's service. The cultists' willingness to betray each other suggests either fanatical devotion or magical compulsion, removing normal moral constraints. Maybe Boethia's influence slowly erodes participants' humanity until murder becomes acceptable means of advancement. The Staff of Magnus Recovery. The Staff of Magnus rests in Labyrinthian, separated from the eye across vast distance. This placement seems deliberately designed to prevent their combination, suggesting ancient authorities recognized the danger. Perhaps dragon priests originally possessed both artifacts, but divided them after witnessing their combined power. The College of Winterhold questline forces their reunion, potentially fulfilling prophecy or repeating ancient mistake. Ancano's attempt to harness both simultaneously might echo earlier disaster that caused their separation. Maybe the Iron Staff together create something beyond simple magical amplification, possibly opening portals or rewriting reality's fundamental rules. The Ogma Infinium's true cost. Hermaeus Mora offers the Ogma Infinium in exchange for blood samples, claiming to seek knowledge of all races. The book's power to instantly grant skill mastery seems generous for simple biological specimens. Perhaps Mora's true interest isn't physical blood, but knowledge contained within racial memories. Maybe each blood sample provides the prince with access to entire lineage's accumulated experience, explaining his willingness to trade such powerful artifact. The Infinium's single-use limitation might be safety measure, preventing mortals from achieving knowledge levels that would make them challenge Daedric princes. Alternatively, using the book could bind readers to Mora's service, making them unconscious agents gathering information for Apocrypha's infinite libraries. The Loverstone's secret. The Loverstone grants faster learning rates across all skills, presenting this blessing as simple educational aid. Perhaps the stone doesn't enhance learning, but rather unlocks potential normally restricted by divine design. Maybe humans were originally capable of mastering all skills, but were limited by gods who feared what unrestricted humanity might achieve. The Lover Stone could be an artifact that partially removes these restrictions, explaining its effectiveness and rarity. Alternatively, using the stone might have hidden cost, trading future potential for immediate gains. Maybe skills learned under stone's influence never achieved true mastery despite appearing advanced. The mysterious ancestor moth. Ancestor moths in the glade possess ability to grant temporary comprehension of Elder Scrolls. These creatures navigate prophecy and time in ways no other being can duplicate. Perhaps moths exist partially outside linear time, experiencing all moments simultaneously like the scrolls themselves. Their blood-drinking behavior might be how they anchor themselves to specific individuals and moments. Maybe moths were created by same divine forces that produced Elder Scrolls, serving as living keys to unlock prophecies. Their willingness to aid the Dragonborn suggests they recognize the player's significance to time's flow. The Lost Knife Hideout. Lost Knife Hideout serves as bandit base with surprising fortifications for simple criminals. The cave system's complexity and defensive positioning suggest military engineering beyond typical bandit capabilities. Perhaps the hideout was originally constructed by more sophisticated organization that bandits later occupied. The strategic location near major trade routes indicates whoever built it understood value of controlling movement through the region. Maybe Lost Knife was Stormcloak cache or Imperial outpost before abandonment allowed criminal occupation. The Silverblood corruption. The Silverblood family controls Markarth through wealth and political manipulation, but their power might extend into supernatural realms. Their ownership of Kidna Mine provides more than economic advantage. It grants access to ancient Dwemer ruins beneath the prison. Perhaps the family discovered artifacts or knowledge in these depths that enhance their influence. The conspiracy surrounding Madanach and the Forsworn reveals Silverblood willingness to commit atrocities while maintaining respectable facade. Maybe they've made pacts with Daedric princes or discovered Dwemer technology that grants them advantages in business and politics. Their tolerance of Forsworn prisoner Madanach, despite supposedly supporting his elimination, suggests complex manipulation serving hidden agenda. The Mzulft focusing crystal. Mzulft contains Dwemer oculary that requires focusing crystal to function properly. This device maps celestial bodies and apparently tracked Magnus himself before the Dwemer disappeared. The Synod's interest in the machine reveals it might locate magical artifacts across Tamriel. Perhaps the Dwemer used the oculary not for astronomy, but for surveilling divine beings, tracking gods to understand or potentially challenge them. The focusing crystal's power suggests it's fragment of something much larger, possibly piece of Magnus's own essence captured and crystallized. Maybe the Dwemer attempted to map reality itself using the oculary, and their disappearance resulted from successfully perceiving truths mortals cannot survive knowing. The Lost Echo Cave. Lost Echo Cave contains bandits and a word wall, but acoustic properties within suggest the cave served ceremonial purposes. The way sound reflects through chambers creates natural amplification that would enhance Thu'um tremendously. Perhaps ancient tongues used this location for training or ritual, the cave's name preserving memory of shouts that once echoed through its depths. The bandits' occupation might be recent, with the cave abandoned for centuries before criminal discovery. Maybe the word wall was placed specifically to harness the cave's acoustic properties, creating resonance that makes learning the shout easier for those who train here. Haldir's Cairn possession. Haldir inhabits his own tomb as Draga, but his spirit also possesses clones of himself that must be destroyed. This unique undead configuration suggests experimental necromancy or curse gone wrong. Perhaps Haldir attempted to achieve immortality through splitting his soul across multiple bodies, creating primitive version of lichdom. The spell's failure trapped him in death while fragmenting his consciousness. Alternatively, enemies might have cursed Haldir to exist in agonizing state where he experiences death repeatedly through each clone's destruction. The cairn's multiple Haldirs might represent his attempts to escape his tomb, each copy getting further before dying and forcing his consciousness back to the original corpse. The Eldergleam Sanctuary. The Eldergleam is ancient tree sacred to Kinnereth, located within sanctuary protected by Spriggans and pilgrims. Maurice Jondrell seeks sap to restore Gildergreen in Whiterun, but harvesting damages the sacred tree. The Eldergleam's extreme age suggests it predates human civilization in Skyrim, possibly planted by Kinnereth herself. Perhaps the tree serves as anchor point connecting Divine Realm to Mundus, making it genuinely sacred rather than merely symbolic. The Spriggan Guardians might be tree's immune system made manifest, attacking anything that threatens the Eldergleam's health. Alternative solution using Nettlebane on specific roots preserves the tree, while obtaining necessary material, suggesting the blade was designed specifically for interacting with sacred vegetation. Maybe Nettlebane belonged to hag-ravens who attempted to corrupt or study Eldergleam, creating tool that can safely harvest divine plants. The Dawnbreaker's explosion, Meridia's artifact. Dawnbreaker explodes when killing undead, producing effect far more destructive than simple burning. Perhaps the sword doesn't just destroy undead bodies, but eradicates the necromantic energy binding them to unlife. The explosive release represents corrupted life force escaping suddenly when Dawnbreaker severs the bindings. Maybe Meridia designed this spectacular effect deliberately, creating weapon that demonstrates divine power through its visible destruction of undeath. The sword's ability might permanently destroy undead in ways preventing their resurrection, erasing them from reality so thoroughly that even powerful necromancy cannot restore them. Meridia's hatred of undead stems from her original identity as Magna G, making Dawnbreaker potentially fragment of ethereal essence weaponized against life's perversion. The Forgotten Names quest involves collecting Deathbrand treasure left by legendary pirate. The equipment scatter across Solstheim suggests Hagnir Deathbrand deliberately separated his greatest possessions before death. Perhaps he feared theft by crew, or wanted to ensure no single person could claim his full power. The armor's enchantments grow stronger when wearing complete set, suggesting the pieces work synergistically rather than independently. Maybe Deathbrand discovered Dwemer or Daedric crafting knowledge that let him create artifacts that bond with each other. His ghost's aggressive defense of the treasure indicates he remains bound to his possessions even in death, unable to move on while fragments of his power remain scattered. The Netch at Raven Rock. Netch creatures native to Morrowind appear in Solstheim's Hirstang forest, despite being far from their natural habitat. Their presence indicates ecological changes or deliberate introduction following Red Mountain's eruption. Perhaps ash storms carried Netch spores or eggs across the Sea of Ghosts, allowing them to establish in new territory. Alternatively, Dunmer refugees might have brought Netch deliberately, maintaining connection to Morrowind culture through familiar wildlife. The creature's peaceful nature, unless provoked, makes them useful livestock, possibly explaining Dunmer interest in establishing herds. Maybe Netch possess value beyond simple meat, their secretions potentially useful in alchemy or Dunmer religious practices. The Kolbjorn Barrow excavation. Ralis Sedaris conducts excavation at Kolbjorn Barrow, funded by players' investment. The dig's mounting casualties suggest curse or deliberate sacrifice rather than simple accident. Perhaps R'alis serves Azadol knowingly, feeding workers to the dragon priest to facilitate his resurrection. The Draugr attacks could be Azadol's doing, eliminating witnesses while creating excuse for recruiting more victims. R'alis's eventual possession reveals he either planned this outcome or was manipulated from the start. Maybe Azadol's influence reached from his tomb, compelling R'alis to organize the excavation and provide sacrifices necessary for the dragon priest's return. The ramshackle trading post. An isolated trading post operates on Solstheim despite limited customer access. The merchant's willingness to trade at such remote locations suggests either desperation or ulterior motives. Perhaps the post serves as front for smuggling operations or intelligence gathering. The merchant might be monitoring travel between Solstheim and mainland Skyrim for interested parties. Alternatively, the post's location could be strategic for accessing nearby locations or resources that aren't immediately obvious. Maybe the merchant fled civilization for reasons they prefer not to discuss. The glowing mushroom caves. Blackreach contains massive glowing mushrooms that illuminate the vast cavern without external light source. These fungi represent pinnacle of Dwemer cultivation, engineered to provide light while serving additional purposes. Perhaps the mushrooms aren't truly plants, but biological light fixtures, genetically modified organisms designed specifically for underground illumination. The Dwemer might have cultivated them from surface mushrooms, selecting for bioluminescence and size over generations. Alternatively, magical enhancement could have transformed normal fungi into these giants. Maybe the mushrooms feed on magical radiation from Eye of Magnus or other artifacts, explaining their persistent glow centuries after Dwemer disappearance. The Dwarven Mechanism Puzzle. Dwemer ruins contain puzzles using tonal locks and mechanical contraptions requiring specific solutions. These mechanisms reveal Dwemer understanding of physics and engineering far exceeding other races. Perhaps the puzzles weren't security measures, but educational tools, teaching Dwemer children mathematics and spatial reasoning. The lock's survival indicates self-maintaining mechanisms that operate indefinitely without external power. Maybe they draw energy from Nirn's magnetic field, or tap into deeper sources unknown to surface civilizations. The puzzle's frequent similarity suggests a standardized Dwemer education system that taught common problem-solving approaches across their civilization. The Arniel's Endeavor Failure. Arniel Gain attempts to recreate what happened to the Dwemer by duplicating Kagranak's work on smaller scale. His experiment's catastrophic failure causes him to vanish exactly like the Dwemer did. Perhaps Arniel succeeded perfectly, achieving the same transcendence or destruction that claimed the Dwemer. His soul might have been absorbed into the soul gem he was using, trapped in miniature version of whatever prison holds the Dwemer. Alternatively, maybe he was transported to the same location or state of existence the Dwemer achieved. The quest's conclusion proves the Dwemer's fate can be reproduced, suggesting it resulted from reproducible process rather than unique event. The Soulcairn Architecture. The Soulcairn contains ruins and architecture, despite being pocket dimension, created by ideal masters. Perhaps these structures existed before the masters claimed this realm, remnants of civilization that existed here when it was still part of Mundus. The building's decay suggests they've experienced normal time despite the cairn's timeless nature. Maybe the masters preserved ruins deliberately, maintaining them as monuments to mortality or as containment for trapped souls. The architecture's similarity to Nordic ruins indicates possible connection to Skyrim's ancient past. Perhaps this realm was once part of Nirn before divine or Daedric forces severed it and transformed it into Soul Prison. The giant camp paintings. Giant camps feature crude astronomical paintings that suggest sophistication beyond their reputation as unintelligent brutes. These star charts demonstrate giants observe and record celestial movements, implying mathematical ability and long-term planning. Perhaps giants maintain oral traditions spanning generations, with astronomical knowledge preserved through cultural teaching. The paintings might serve religious purposes, mapping stars associated with giant deities or mythology. Alternatively, they could be navigational aids, helping giants track seasons for mammoth migration, or identifying optimal times for seasonal activities. The sophistication required for accurate star mapping contradicts assumptions about giant intelligence, suggesting they hide their capabilities deliberately. The Dwemer Museum's secrets. Calixto's House of Curiosities in Windhelm contains Dwemer artifacts and unusual exhibits. Among legitimately historical items sits the ancient Nord pickaxe, which is actually just a fork, suggesting Calixto fabricates some exhibits. Perhaps his entire collection contains fabrications mixed with genuine artifacts, making it difficult to distinguish truth from fraud. Calixto's role as the butcher reveals his obsession with resurrection, possibly explaining his interest in collecting unusual items. Maybe he sought Dwemer knowledge, hoping to find life extension or resurrection techniques. The museum might have been cover for his research into necromancy and other dark arts. The Baikid Chillwind Depths. Discovery. Chillwind Depths contains bandits and a word wall, but its location suggests more significant original purpose. The depths name references perpetual cold beyond normal Skyrim winter, indicating magical or geographical phenomenon. Perhaps the location sits atop underground ice formations or magical convergence that creates unnatural chill. The bandits' occupation might be recent, with the depths abandoned for centuries before criminal discovery. Maybe ancient Nords used this location for ice magic training or storage of materials requiring extreme cold. The word wall's presence indicates importance to Thu'um traditions, possibly teaching frost-related shouts. The voice of the sky. Reading all 10 emblems along the 7,000 steps grants voice of the sky ability, allowing peaceful animal approach. This blessing demonstrates that ancient Nord religious practices possessed genuine divine connection. Perhaps the emblems serve as prayer stones that, when read in sequence, create resonance attracting Kinnereth's attention. The goddess's response to pilgrims completing the full ascent indicates she values dedication and humility. Maybe Voice of the Sky represents fraction of Thu'um's original peaceful applications before it was weaponized. The ability's temporary nature suggests maintaining divine favor requires continued devotion rather than one-time achievement. The Broken Azura's Star. Malin Varen attempted to use Azura's star as soul trap for himself, corrupting the artifact in the process. His partial success in binding himself to the star demonstrates mortal capability to subvert divine artifacts. Perhaps Azura deliberately allows such corruption, using it as test to find worthy champions who will restore her artifact. The choice between cleansing or embracing the star's corruption reflects moral decision Azura forces on the Dragonborn. Maybe the Black Star represents what happens when mortals successfully weaponize divine gifts against their creator's intentions. Varen's consciousness surviving within the star suggests souls trapped in Daedric artifacts might retain awareness, experiencing imprisonment for eternity. The Bloodskull Blade mystery. The Bloodskull Blade shoots energy projectiles when power attacking, functioning unlike any other weapon in Skyrim. This unique property suggests Dwemer or ancient Nordic enchantment techniques beyond modern understanding. Perhaps the blade channels wielder's life force into ranged attacks, making it both powerful and dangerous. The energy's color and pattern indicate specific magical school, possibly alteration or destruction. Maybe Bloodskull was legendary warrior, whose spirit inhabits the blade, granting it properties his physical form possessed. The blade's location in Bloodskull Barrow connects it to the location's name, suggesting the weapon defined the place rather than being simply stored there. The Clavicus Vial Bargain. Clavicus Vial offers to reunite Barbas with himself in exchange for killing the dog companion. This bargain reveals the Daedric Prince's nature, making deals that technically fulfill requests while subverting their intent. Perhaps Vial deliberately separated from Barbas to engineer situations where mortals would help reunite them. The dog represents Vial's conscience or power, with separation weakening the prince deliberately to create dependence on mortal assistance. Maybe Vial enjoys the irony of making mortals choose between what they want and what's morally right. The choice to spare or kill Barbas reveals whether the player values power or principle. The Redwater Den Vampires. Redwater Den operates as Skooma, den-hiding vampire operation beneath. The narcotic serves dual purposes, addicting customers while softening them for vampire feeding. Perhaps the vampires cultivate addiction deliberately, creating captive food source too dependent on Skooma to escape. The den's remote location provides privacy for predation, while maintaining access to trade routes for importing Skooma. Maybe the operation funds larger vampire agenda, generating gold used to expand influence across Skyrim. The dealers might not realize their employers are vampires, seeing only profitable criminal enterprise. The Benkongorika Word Wall. Benkongorika contains Great Barrow with word wall and challenging puzzles protecting it. The trial's complexity suggests the location held great importance to ancient Nords. Perhaps Benkongorika served as testing ground for potential tongues, with only those proving worthy gaining access to the word wall. The underwater passages and environmental hazards represent different types of challenges testing various capabilities. Maybe completing the trials was prerequisite for higher dragon cult ranks, proving candidates possessed necessary skill and determination. The word wall-specific shout might have been particularly powerful, justifying elaborate security. The Gildenhall Barrow Treasure. Gildenhall Barrow requires treasure maps found across Solstheim to locate completely. The maps scatter suggest deliberate distribution by someone who wanted the treasure found by worthy searchers. Perhaps ancient pirate or adventurer divided the maps, ensuring no single person could easily claim everything. The treasure's value indicates significant wealth, possibly lifetime accumulation of legendary figure. Maybe the maps themselves are test, requiring dedication and exploration skill to gather all pieces. The Barrow's location might hold significance beyond simple hiding place, possibly sacred site or strategically important location. The Kargrinzel Death Trap. Kargrinzel is a Dwemer ruin containing an elaborate trap that drops explorers down a massive shaft when they approach the central chamber. The fall typically kills those who trigger it, though survivors find themselves in caverns leading towards Stony Creek Cave. The mechanism consists of a Dwemer platform that collapses when weight is applied, sending the victim plummeting hundreds of feet. During the fall, observant adventurers can glimpse massive skeletal remains embedded in the surrounding mountain walls. These bones appear to be from whales, positioned impossibly far from any ocean. Based on ancient texts that mention snow whales, legendary flying creatures said to have inhabited Skyrim's skies during the Merethic era. These could be remains of those extinct beings. Why whale skeletons would be found inside a mountain remains unexplained, though the shaft's massive height suggests it may have been a natural formation the Dwemer later incorporated into their structure. The trap's preservation after thousands of years demonstrates typical Dwemer engineering quality. The Angavunda treasure hunt. Angavunda is Nordic ruin, where Medresi Dran searches for treasure despite the dungeon's dangerous inhabitants. Her journals chronicle her expedition's progressive casualties as Draga kill her companions one by one. The final entries reveal her isolation and deteriorating mental state as she continues searching despite knowing death is imminent. Perhaps Medresi's obsession was magically induced by the treasure itself, artifacts that called to her and compelled her exploration even when rational thinking demanded retreat. The Draga's organized resistance suggests they weren't simply awakened undead, but actively defending against Medresi's intrusion. Maybe the ruin contains something beyond simple gold, knowledge or artifacts the ancient Nords wanted, protected at all costs. Medresi's fate serves as warning about greed's consequences, but perhaps her death wasn't punishment, but deliberate sacrifice. Maybe she understood what she was doing and chose to die securing the treasure for others who would follow. Her journals serving as map and cautionary tale simultaneously. The Forelhost tragedy. Forelhost is a remote monastery, high in the Gerald Mountains, where the dragon cult made their final stand against King Harold's forces in 1E140. When the siege made defeat inevitable, Dragon Priest Ragot ordered mass suicide rather than surrender. According to Skorm Snowstrider's journal found within, the cult members consumed poison, dying together in their stronghold. This mass death created a magical barrier that prevented Harold's forces from fully sacking the settlement for weeks. The extremity of this response reveals the dragon cult's fanatical devotion to their dragon masters. Based on the barrier's creation following the deaths, we might infer the suicide was ritualistic sacrifice designed to power defensive magic. Whether this was Ragot's plan from the beginning or a desperate final act remains unclear. The monastery's preservation centuries later shows the barrier succeeded in preventing complete destruction. Ragot himself was entombed within the temple, where he remains as powerful Draugr wearing his distinctive mask. The Red Eagle legend. Red Eagle is legendary. Reachman, who fought against Nordic occupation, dying in battle but prophesied to return when his people need him most. His spirit haunts Red Eagle Redoubt, unable to rest while the Reach remains under foreign control. The Forsworn venerate Red Eagle as messianic figure, believing he will resurrect to liberate their homeland. Perhaps the legend contains truth, with Red Eagle's spirit genuinely capable of physical resurrection under specific circumstances. The burial preparations and magical items surrounding his tomb suggest his followers prepared for eventual return. Maybe Red Eagle made pact with Hircine or another Daedric prince, trading eternal service for power to return when summoned. The Forsworn's continued rebellion might be religious duty rather than simple resistance, with each attack intended to create conditions allowing Red Eagle's prophesied resurrection. His connection to the Briarheart ritual suggests Forsworn leaders partially replicate whatever magic transformed Red Eagle into undying legend. The Bleak Falls Barrow. Mystery. Bleak Falls Barrow is among the first dungeons most players explore, containing the dragonstone needed for Whiterun's investigation into dragon sightings. The bandit occupation of such ancient tomb raises questions about what drew them there. Perhaps the bandits discovered information suggesting significant treasure within, though they apparently hadn't located the dragonstone before the Dragonborn's arrival. The combination lock puzzle protecting the inner sanctum indicates the ancient Nords anticipated unauthorized intrusion. Maybe the dragon stone was never meant to be security measure, but communication device, with the map carved on it serving as message for future dragonborn. The tablet-specific dragon burial locations suggest ancient Nords knew dragons would eventually return and wanted to provide information to whoever would face them. Perhaps Delphine's research into dragon sightings wasn't original investigation, but rediscovery of this intentionally preserved knowledge. The barrow's placement near Riverwood might be strategic, positioned where early warning of dragon return could reach civilization quickly. The Dustman's Cairn transformation. Dustman's Cairn serves as location where the companions test the Dragonborn's worth through ritual combat with Farkas. During the trial, Farkas transforms into werewolf to save the player from Draga ambush. This transformation represents companions' secret revealed at crucial moment, demonstrating trust through vulnerability. The Cairn's selection as testing ground suggests it holds significance beyond convenient dungeon location. Perhaps the companions use Dustman's Cairn specifically because its ancient magic interacts with beast blood, making transformation easier or more controlled. The fragment of Wuthred found within might resonate with companions' werewolf nature, explaining why Kodlak sent the player to recover it. Maybe Wuthrad's legendary power wasn't just weapon enhancement, but ability to control or enhance beast transformations. The axe fragments scatter across Skyrim could be intentional safeguard, preventing anyone from wielding full power without companions' approval. Perhaps Isgramor himself was first werewolf companion, and his legendary weapon was designed specifically to channel beast form's power into deadly efficiency. The Volskiga Challenge. Volskig is high mountain ruin, requiring significant climb to reach its summit word wall. The journey's difficulty serves as trial of endurance, testing whether seekers possess dedication to learn the shout it teaches. The summit's exposure to extreme weather and thin air creates additional challenges beyond simple Draga combat. Perhaps ancient Nords believed altitude brought seekers closer to gods, making mountaintop word walls more spiritually significant than those at ground level. The ascent might have been meditation exercise, with physical exertion clearing the mind for Thum instruction. Dragon Priest Volsung guards the summit, indicating it held high importance in dragon cult hierarchy. Maybe the specific shout taught here was considered particularly powerful, justifying elite guardian and difficult access. The vista from Volskiga's peak provides commanding view of surrounding territory, suggesting it might have served military or surveillance function beyond religious purposes. Perhaps dragon priests use such elevated positions to watch for rebellion or coordinate dragon flights across their domain. The Grey Winter Watch Massacre. Grey Winter Watch is Imperial fort that was attacked and overrun, with no survivors remaining. The fort's destruction appears total, with bodies scattered throughout indicating desperate final battle. The attacker's identity remains unclear, though evidence suggests organized military assault rather than bandit raid. Perhaps Stormcloaks overwhelmed Grey Winter as strategic victory, eliminating Imperial presence in the region. Alternatively, the attack might have been false flag operation designed to provoke Imperial response or frame Stormcloaks for atrocity. The fort's remote location questions why either side considered it valuable enough to assault with such overwhelming force. Maybe Grey Winter Watch guarded something beyond simple territory, possibly serving as depot for supplies or intelligence. The complete lack of survivors suggests attackers intended to leave no witnesses, either through ruthless efficiency or magical intervention that killed everyone simultaneously. The Sarthal excavation timing. The College of Winterhold excavates Sarthal just as dragons return to Skyrim. Coincidence that seems almost too perfect. Perhaps the excavation's timing wasn't random, but orchestrated by forces aware of coming dragon resurrection. The Sigic Order's intervention during the college quest suggests they monitored the excavation closely. Maybe they knew about the Eye of Magnus beneath Sarthal and wanted to ensure it was discovered by appropriate parties. The ancient city's destruction during the Night of Tears might have been specifically to bury the Eye, with snow elves attacking to prevent Nords from discovering it. Perhaps subsequent centuries of the city lying undisturbed were intentional, maintaining the Eye's containment until destined moment for its revelation. Ancano's infiltration of the college at precisely this time suggests Thalmor intelligence also knew excavation would uncover something significant. The convergence of college excavation, dragon return, and Thalmor interest indicates multiple factions tracking prophecies or intelligence pointing towards Sarthal's importance. The Ysgramor's tomb consecration. Ysgramor's tomb on the northern coast houses the legendary warrior's remains and serves as sacred site for the companions. The tomb's isolation emphasizes Ysgramor's legendary status, placed apart from ordinary Nordic burials. The ghost of Ancient companion guards the tomb entrance, demonstrating magical protection that has endured for millennia. Perhaps Ysgramor's burial included rituals that bound his most loyal followers to eternal guardianship. The companion's pilgrimage here to cure lycanthropy reveals the tomb possesses power beyond simple memorial. Maybe Ysgramor himself discovered methods of purging beast blood, or his legendary status grants him divine authority over curses. The Glen Moril witch's participation in the cure suggests complex magical working, requiring both witch magic and sacred site's power. Perhaps the tomb channels divine energy, specifically opposed to Daedric influence, making it ideal location for breaking Hircine's curse. The Sleeping Tree origin. The Sleeping Tree grows in volcanic tundra south of Whiterun. Unlike any native Skyrim flora, its purple coloration and massive size indicate extraplanar or alien origin. A giant tends the tree with unusual devotion, sleeping beneath its boughs and protecting it from threats. The tree produces sap with powerful narcotic properties that Isolde seeks for her mysterious contacts. Perhaps the tree isn't natural but planted deliberately, possibly seed brought from Oblivion or even other continents. The giant's mother was captured woman kept by the giant before death, and her skeleton can be found nearby. This dark history suggests the tree might have grown from her remains, possibly nurtured by the giant, as memorial or magical attempt at resurrection. The sap's hallucinogenic effects could be tree's defense mechanism or intentional feature designed by whoever planted it. Maybe the tree serves as observation post or anchor for entities from other realms, using the giant as unwitting guardian while monitoring Skyrim. The Arkwind Point Dragons. Arkwind Point is high-altitude Nordic ruin containing Draugr, dragon priest, and most notably, dragons. The concentration of such powerful enemies in remote locations suggests it held extreme importance to ancient dragon cult. Perhaps Arkwind served as dragon roost during their rule, with the word wall positioned where dragons could easily teach favored humans. The dragon priest's continued guardianship indicates responsibility extending beyond death, possibly maintaining watch for dragon return. At level 78 or higher, players encounter legendary dragons here, suggesting the location attracts most powerful drakes. Maybe Arkwind Point's elevation and isolation make it ideal territory for ancient dragons, offering commanding views and distance from ground-based threats. The ruins' architecture indicates substantial settlement once existed, possibly entire community dedicated to serving dragons who claim this peak as their domain. The Froki's Shack Ritual. Froki Wetted Blade lives in isolated shack practicing traditional Nord religion, dedicated to Kine. His grandson Haming survived Helgen's destruction and seeks refuge with Froki afterward. The hermit offers Kine's sacred trials, hunting quest involving killing specific animals with bow. These trials reveal ancient Nord traditions that most modern Skyrim residents have abandoned. Perhaps Froki represents last practitioner of hunting rites that once defined Nordic identity before imperial influence. The specific animals chosen for the trials might carry spiritual significance in Kine worship, with their deaths serving as offerings or demonstrations of respect. Froki's isolation suggests he voluntarily separated from civilization to maintain pure traditions unsullied by foreign influence. Maybe his teaching represents genuine link to pre-imperial Nord culture, preserved through hermit lineage that refused conversion to imperial religious practices. The Four Skull Lookout. Four Skull Lookout is necromancer lair marked by four skulls on pikes surrounding the entrance. The obvious warning suggests the necromancer either seeks privacy or deliberately challenges those who notice. Perhaps the skulls serve magical purpose beyond decoration, possibly anchoring wards or scrying spells. The lookout's elevated position provides excellent sight lines, indicating the necromancer monitors surrounding territory. Maybe they're conducting surveillance for larger necromantic organization or gathering intelligence about population movements for targeting. The skulls might belong to failed challengers, serving both as trophy and deterrent. Alternatively, they could be remains of apprentices who died during training, displayed as memorial or warning about necromancy's dangers. The necromancer's choice of such exposed location contradicts expectations of secretive evil magicians, suggesting either arrogance or strategic positioning, overriding desire for concealment. The Broken Helm Hollow Riddle. Broken Helm Hollow is bandit cave containing mysterious riddle carved into wall. The puzzle's presence in simple bandit hideout raises questions about who created it and why. Perhaps the cave served different purpose before bandits occupied it, possibly as training location for puzzle solving or religious site. The riddle might be remnant of ancient Nord tradition, with the cave once used for initiation ceremonies. Solving the riddle reveals hidden treasure, suggesting whoever created it wanted to reward clever seekers. Maybe the puzzle was test for initiates, with those solving it proving worthy of knowledge or artifacts hidden within. The bandits' apparent ignorance of the treasure indicates they either couldn't solve the riddle or never noticed it. Perhaps the puzzle contains magic making it invisible to unworthy observers, appearing only to those with specific knowledge or abilities. The Ingle Barrow Ghost. Ingle Barrow contains Ghost of Ingle, ancient Nord, whose death during settlement of Skyrim is recorded in histories. His spirit appears as spectral warrior when players near his sarcophagus, attacking with considerable power despite incorporeal nature. Perhaps Ingle's burial preparations included rituals binding his spirit to guard his tomb eternally. The barrow's location near Windhelm suggests it predates the city, possibly marking where Ingle died during the Companion's initial conquest of Skyrim. The Helm of Ingle found within possesses powerful frost enchantments, indicating he was warrior of significant status. Maybe Ingle was among Ysgramor's most trusted companions, worthy of individual tomb and legendary artifact burial. His continued aggression toward intruders suggests he still serves his original duty, protecting Nordic legacy from those he perceives as threats. The ghost's appearance might intensify during celestial events or specific conditions, explaining why some explorers encounter him while others find the tomb empty. The Ironback Hideout Mystery. Ironback Hideout serves as bandit base in Rift, unremarkable except for its defensible position. The hideout's name suggests previous occupant or significant feature that gave it identity before bandit occupation. Perhaps Ironback reference person, creature, or geographical feature now lost to time. The bandits might be unaware of the location's history, seeing only convenient shelter. Maybe the hideout contains hidden elements that would reveal its original purpose to more careful investigators. The placement suggests it once served as way station, guard post, or trading hub before falling into disuse and criminal hands. Perhaps Civil War's chaos allowed bandits to claim locations that were previously too well monitored for criminal occupation. The Reachwater Rock Secret. Reachwater Rock is Dwemer Ruin, where the Dragonborn can reforge the Guldur amulet by defeating all three Guldur brothers' spirits simultaneously. The mechanism binding the brothers to manifest together when the amulet fragments unite reveals sophisticated magical working. Perhaps the brothers arranged this themselves, ensuring anyone seeking the amulet's full power would face all three as final test. The Dwemer Ruins selection as meeting point suggests connection between the Guldur family and Dwemer civilization. Maybe Guldur studied Dwemer magic, incorporating their techniques into his crafting of the original amulet. The brothers' spirits merging into single entity during the fight indicates they shared deeper connection than simple siblinghood. Perhaps they attempted primitive soul bonding that their father's death interrupted, leaving them eternally connected but separated. The reforged amulet might contain fragments of all four souls, father and three sons, creating artifact powered by tragic families' combined essence. The Nordic Puzzle Pillars. Nordic ruins universally feature rotating pillars marked with animal symbols used as combination locks. The widespread standardization suggests unified security system across ancient Nord civilization. Perhaps these puzzles weren't originally security measures, but educational tools teaching children about animal symbolism in Nordic culture. The specific animals chosen, snake, whale, eagle, and others, might correspond to Nordic deities, seasons, or clans. The clues scattered nearby in the form of matching carvings suggest the ancient Nords intended these puzzles to be solvable by worthy seekers. Maybe the pillars served dual purpose, both protecting sacred spaces and ensuring cultural knowledge was passed to future generations through puzzle solving. The mechanism's durability across millennia indicates sophisticated engineering, possibly incorporating Dwemer principles that Nordic craftsmen learned through observation or trade. Perhaps the final puzzle room in each ruin corresponds to a specific set of animals that held meaning to whoever constructed that particular tomb. The Ancient Nord Armor Mystery. Ancient Nord armor appears throughout Nordic ruins, worn by Draugr and found in burial chambers. The armor's consistent design across centuries suggests either remarkable cultural continuity or magical preservation. Perhaps the armor serves ceremonial purpose, with Draugr equipped in death with the same equipment they wielded in life. The enchantments on higher quality pieces indicate Nordic smithing traditions incorporated magical enhancement before Dwemer contact. Maybe ancient Nords discovered independent enchantment methods that were later superseded by techniques learned from other cultures. The armor's preservation, despite extreme age, suggests materials or maintenance magic that modern smiths cannot replicate. Perhaps Draugr themselves maintained their equipment through necromantic animation, keeping arms and armor battle-ready for eternal service. The Dragon Bridge origins. Dragon Bridge settlement takes its name from massive ancient bridge spanning the Karth River, supposedly built by Akaviri during their invasion. The bridge's construction shows engineering sophistication exceeding typical Nordic stonework. Perhaps the Akaviri built it as strategic crossing during their conquest attempt, creating infrastructure to support their military campaign. The bridge's survival for thousands of years demonstrates remarkable construction quality. Maybe it incorporates magical reinforcement, or was built using techniques the Akaviri developed in their homeland. The settlement that grew around the bridge benefited from its reliable crossing, transforming military infrastructure into economic asset. Perhaps locals maintain oral traditions about the bridge's construction, preserving knowledge of the Akaviri invasion that official histories might obscure. The bridge's name suggests dragons were involved somehow, either in its construction or as inspiration for its design.